Prologue. 3 years into our marriage, I discovered my wife was the CEO of the company. But for the sake of some so-called test, she deliberately pretended to be poor to live with me. For her, I gave up better opportunities, content to be an ordinary analyst at the company. Yet she secretly manipulated my career. Promotions were suppressed, bonuses withheld, and even my startup plan was personally rejected by her. Promotion opportunities that should have been mine were given to others. Proposals I worked hard on were always inexplicably rejected. Even the startup proposal I secretly prepared was rejected by venture capitalists under her instruction. She wove a web with tenderness, trapping me within narrow confines. The day I discovered the truth, she panicked, tearfully begging me not to leave, claiming everything she did was just to temper me. Offer me promotions, raises, even a high price to invest in my project. She didn't actually believe my ideas could succeed. She just wanted to keep controlling me. I tore up the check and turned away without hesitation. This time, I would live for myself. Unexpectedly, she cried her heart out. Just as I placed the last dish, stir-fried greens, on the table, the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands and glanced at the wall clock. 7:15, 10 minutes earlier than usual. Looks like the subway wasn't delayed today. I silently noted this small piece of luck coming. I walked quickly to the door, smoothing the slightly wrinkled collar of my t-shirt. When the door opened, Su Ching stood there, her hair slightly damp, clearly having just been caught in a sudden summer shower. Her white shirt showed a water stain on the shoulder, clinging to her slender frame. I frowned. Why didn't you take a taxi back? I took her bag, my fingers brushing against the water droplets on the leather surface. Su Ching smiled, a smile tinged with a weariness familiar to me. To save money, besides, the rain wasn't heavy. My heart tightened. In our 3 years of marriage, this phrase had practically become Su Ching's mantra. Save money. For this home, for our future children, for those yet unrealized dreams. I reached out to brush the water droplets from the ends of her hair, a cool sensation on my fingertips. Go change quickly, don't catch a cold, I said softly, a guilt in my voice I hadn't even noticed myself. Su Ching nodded, stood on tiptoe to give me a light kiss on the cheek, then headed towards the bedroom. I stood there, smelling the faint lingering scent of perfume in the air. The gift I gave Su Ching for her birthday last year, the last bottle from the department store's discount section. On the dining table, 2 dishes and a soup steamed gently. I served a bowl of rice for each of us. By the time Su Ching came out changed in a loungewear, the food was just the right temperature. How was today? Su Ching asked, picking up some greens with her chopsticks. My chopsticks paused midair. Same old. Li Ming snatched my client again. Director Wang seems to really favor him. Li Ming? The one who got ahead by sucking up. Su Ching's brow furrowed. Are your bosses blind? Didn't you train Li Ming before? I gave a wry smile. Manning Group is a leader in the industry. Getting in isn't easy for anyone. But after 3 years, I'm still just an ordinary marketing specialist, while colleagues from the same cohort have either been promoted or moved on to better platforms. Maybe I'm just not capable enough, I mumbled, looking down and shoveling rice in my mouth to hide the disappointment in my eyes. Nonsense. Su Ching's chopsticks hit the rim of her bowl sharply. You're the most talented person I know. Remember your startup plan from university? That idea for an online education platform is still relevant today. Hearing Su Ching's words, a tightness constricted my chest. That proposal, I had submitted it full of hope to Manning Group's investment department, only to have it ruthlessly rejected. And a month later, the company launched an almost identical project, spearheaded by the marketing director himself. Let's just eat, I finally said. After dinner, Su Ching volunteered to wash the dishes. I stood at the kitchen doorway, watching her slender figure busy at the sink. 3 years ago, when we got married, Su Ching said she wanted a stable home. So I gave up the startup invitation in Shenzhen and found a stable job in this city. I never regretted this decision, at least not before today. By the way, Su Ching suddenly turned her head. Next Wednesday is our wedding anniversary. I've booked a restaurant. I was taken aback. Which restaurant? Is it expensive? Let me transfer you the money. No need, it's a voucher from the company. Su Ching blinked. It costs almost nothing. I walked over, wrapped my arms around her waist from behind, and rested my chin on her shoulder. Honey, I'm sorry for making you live such a tight life with me. Su Qing's hands paused for a moment. Then she continued wiping the dishes. Silly, I'm very happy. Late at night, I lay in bed, listening to the sound of Su Qing's steady breathing beside me. Moonlight filtered through the gap in the curtains, casting dappled spots of light on her face. For the first time in 3 years, I felt an indescribable sense of dissonance. Su Qing always wore inexpensive clothes, yet possessed an undeniable elegance. She worked as a secretary for the company's general manager, Lin Xiran, in the administrative department, and her salary wasn't high. She was frugal to the point of being almost stingy. Also, we could survive in this city. I turned over, pushing these stray thoughts out of my mind. Too tired. There was an important proposal meeting tomorrow, and this plan had already been sent back for revision 5 times. The next day, at the proposal meeting, I stood in front of the projection screen, my palms sweating. My Starlight Education plan had been revised to its 6th version, almost unrecognizable. A dozen or so executives were seated in the conference room, and the group's general manager, Lin Xiran, would be arriving soon. According to market research, the demand for fragmented learning among the 18 to 35 age group is growing rapidly. My voice sounded particularly clear in the quiet conference room. Just then, the conference room door opened. Everyone's gaze turned towards the door, and my presentation came to an abrupt halt. A woman in a dark blue suit walked in, her high heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. It was Lin Xiran, the general manager of Manning Group. Hello, President Lin. I greeted her with a smile. Lin Xiran's gaze swept across the room, and she gave me a cold look. Then she sat down in the main seat and nodded to the marketing director. Continue. Her icy stare unsettled me. It was like she was looking at a failure. Zhang Ziang, are you all right? Marketing Director Wang asked, frowning. Before I could answer, President Lin looked over, a hint of warning in her eyes. If Mr. Zhang is unwell, we can have someone else present. Her words were like a bucket of ice water poured over me. I took a deep breath and forced myself to continue the presentation. That concludes my proposal. Thank you. By the end, my back was soaked with sweat. The executives began discussing. Some raised questions, others expressed agreement. But Lin Xiran, President Lin, remained expressionless throughout. Finally, she closed her folder and, ignoring the surprised looks from others, said, The concept has potential, but the execution plan is lacking. Rejected. Work overtime tonight and revise it again. General Manager Lin Xiran said flatly. I rushed into the restroom, splashed cold water on my face, and stared at the pale face in the mirror, bitterness filling my heart. 11:17 p.m. The last light in the office was still on. I rubbed my sore eyes. The numbers on the screen started to blur together. This was the 3rd time this month I had worked late into the night, rushing to finish that damn quarterly analysis report. Supervisor Wang Lei will take it to the higher-ups tomorrow, and my name won't even be credited. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Su Qing. Hubby, don't work too hard. I left some soup for you. The short message brought an unconscious smile to my lips. For the past 3 years, no matter how late I came home, that light would always be on for me. I quickly replied, Coming home now, love you. After hesitating for a moment, I added a heart emoji. As I saved the document, the computer froze for a few seconds. This old office computer was as worn out as I was. When I joined Manning Group 5 years ago, I had dreamed of rapid promotion, but now I was still just a mid-level analyst. Colleagues who joined at the same time had either been promoted or moved on to other companies. Only I was still stuck in the same place. Mr. Zhang still here. Old Zhang, the security guard, poked his head in, dangling a keychain. Just finishing up. I forced a smile and quickly shut down the computer. As I walked out of the building, the cold wind cut through my thin jacket. This jacket, worn for 4 years, was already pilling, and the cuffs were frayed. But plans to get a new one were always postponed by more pressing expenses. The subway car was empty. I found a corner seat and habitually checked my mobile banking app. Balance, 78.73. 26 yuan. Su Qing's birthday was next Sunday, and I still hadn't figured out what to get her. Last year's scarf, bought on sale for 298 yuan, she had worn happily all winter, but this year, In my phone's photo album, our wedding photo was still pinned to the top. Su Qing in the photo, wearing a simple white dress, was smiling so broadly her eyes curved into crescents. We had our wedding back in our small hometown, keeping everything simple. I had known her for 6 years, dated for 3, married for 3. I had promised her a better life, but 3 years had passed, and we were still renting that old 50-square-meter apartment outside the 5th Ring Road. As the key turned and the door opened, warm yellow light and the aroma of food immediately enveloped me. Su Qing was curled up asleep on the sofa, the TV still playing an interview on some financial channel. She was always like this, insisting on waiting up for me, but often succumbing to sleepiness. I tiptoed over, intending to cover her with a blanket, but I woke her up. "Hubby, you must be tired? I'll go heat up the soup." She was wearing those faded loungewear clothes, her hair tied back loosely. "I'll do it." I stopped her, kissing her forehead. "Why are you still up so late?" "Waiting for you." She smiled, heading towards the kitchen. "How was the interview today?" I stiffened. The interview last week at that new tech company, I had gone secretly. They offered a salary 5 times my current one. But I received the rejection letter today, the reason vague and evasive. "It didn't work out," I said, trying to keep my tone light. "Maybe I wasn't good enough." Su Qing turned and hugged me. "It's their loss. My husband is the best." Her hug was warm and strong, but made me feel even more guilty. After dinner, I volunteered to do the dishes while Su Qing went to take a shower. Amidst the sound of running water from the shower, her phone lit up on the coffee table. I hadn't intended to look, but the sender's name caught my eye and made me pause. Manning Group. HR Zhang. Why would the company HR contact Su Qing directly? I dried my hands and hesitantly picked up the phone. The screen had already gone dark, but the notification preview was clear enough. "Regarding Zhang Zhang's promotion evaluation meeting, please confirm tomorrow at 10 a.m. The sound of water from the bathroom stopped. I quickly put the phone back, my heart pounding like a drum. How could Su Qing know about my promotion evaluation? I hadn't even told her I'd applied for a promotion. "Hubby, can you grab my pajamas?" Su Qing's voice came from the bathroom. "Oh, okay." I walked mechanically towards the bedroom, my thoughts a tangled mess. In the closet, that silk pajama set was the birthday gift I gave her last year. The staggering price on the tag made me gasp back then, but she said she bought it on sale. As I handed her the pajamas, I noticed the new skincare products on her vanity. I recognized the French brand. Su Qing's cousin used it. A small bottle costs over 1,000 yuan. Last week, she said it was a sample her cousin gave her, but now it seems. "What's wrong?" Su Qing asked, coming out drying her hair, noticing me spacing out. "Nothing." I forced a smile, just a bit tired. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Su Qing lay with her back to me, her breathing even. Moonlight streamed through the gap in the curtains, landing on the watch she'd placed on the nightstand. It was an exquisite timepiece I had never seen before, its dial gleaming with understated luxury in the moonlight. The next morning, I arrived at the company half an hour earlier than usual. In the empty office, I logged into the system to check the promotion evaluation list. As expected, my application status showed rejected, and the rejection time was yesterday afternoon, which means Su Qing already knew my promotion had failed before I even received the rejection notice. "Xiang, come to my office." Wang Lei's voice suddenly sounded behind me, nearly making me jump out of my chair. Closing the door, Wang Lei wore a rare, serious expression. "Your promotion was rejected directly from the top." He lowered his voice. "Honestly, did you offend someone important? This is the 3rd time." My throat tightened. "The top." "Who?" Wang Lei shook his head. "Who knows about the higher-ups?" "But," he hesitated, "last Friday, I saw Secretary Lin take your file to the president's floor." "The president? Su Manning? That rarely seen business titan? I've never even met her. How could it be?" An absurd thought suddenly struck me. Su Qing, Su Manning, the same surname, both rarely seen in public. No, this is too crazy. My wife is an ordinary marketing specialist, earning less than 10,000 a month. We pinch pennies for utility bills every month. How could she possibly? But these scattered clues pieced together formed a picture I dare not face. "Rod Ziyang, are you listening?" Wang Lei frowned. "Sorry, I zone out." I forced myself to focus, so there's absolutely no hope for the promotion this time. Not unless the top changes their mind. Wang Lei patted my shoulder. Don't get too discouraged. Keep working hard. Walking out of the office, my palms were sweating. I needed proof, needed to confirm whether this wild guess was true. If Su Qing was really hiding something. If these 3 years of life were all. I looked towards the dedicated elevator in the lobby, the one requiring special access to reach the top floor, and made up my mind. I stood in a corner of the Manning Group lobby, wearing a baseball cap as cover. Today was the company's quarterly all-hands meeting. As usual, the rarely seen president, Su Manning, would attend. I had never paid attention to this in the past 3 years, but today was different. Suddenly, the crowd stirred. I stood on tiptoe and saw a group of people emerge from the dedicated elevator. Leading them was a woman, tall, dressed in a sharply tailored dark blue suit, her hair tied back in a neat bun. She walked quickly towards the conference room, leaving only her back in view. My heart skipped a beat. That back, the way she walked, the habit of tilting her head slightly to the right. It was identical to Su Qing's. No, this is too absurd. I shook my head hard, trying to banish the crazy thought. Su Qing had told me this morning she was going on a 2-day business trip to Shanghai to see a client. She even showed me the high-speed rail ticket confirmation. After the meeting started, I couldn't focus on listening at all. That silhouette lingered in my mind. Before the meeting ended, I slipped out, pretending to use the restroom, and waited at the corner of the corridor. An hour later, the group returned to the elevator bank. This time I saw her profile, a high-nose bridge, a sharply defined jawline. She wore black-rimmed glasses, her makeup much more elaborate than Su Qing's usual look, but as the elevator doors closed, she raised her hand to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. That gesture, the unique way her index fingers slightly curled, was exactly the same as Su Qing's. My hands began to tremble uncontrollably. Back at my desk, I immediately searched for Su Manning photos. The results were scarce. The few photos available were either long shots or profiles, and they were taken 3 or 4 years ago. This mysterious female CEO seemed to deliberately avoid media exposure. I pulled up the employee database and found the CEO's basic information. Su Manning, 30 years old, Harvard Business School MBA, only daughter of Manning Group founder Suzy Yuan. 30 years old. Su Qing had just turned 29 last week. The age didn't match. I breathed a sigh of relief. Right, my wife was just an ordinary office worker. How could she possibly be? What on earth was I thinking? I chuckled at my wild imagination. Yet, I still felt a faint, indescribable sense of unease. When I got home from work, the apartment was empty. Su Qing's business trip started today. I opened the wardrobe. Several of her business suits hung neatly inside. I touched the collar of a navy blue blazer, almost the same color as the one Su Manning had worn today. My phone suddenly chimed. It was a message from Su Qing. Just arrived in Shanghai. Checked into the hotel. Miss you. Attached was a photo of a hotel room. I zoomed in, trying to find clues, but the scene was too generic, making it impossible to pinpoint the location. After replying, "Stay safe," I opened my computer and searched for the Manning Group CEO's itinerary. As an ordinary employee, I naturally wouldn't have access to this information, but the company's internal forum always held some clues. After scrolling through dozens of pages of posts, an inconspicuous reply caught my eye. The CEO is flying to Shanghai tomorrow for the Asia-Pacific Business Summit, supposedly to meet some important clients. Shanghai, the Asia-Pacific Business Summit. The timing perfectly coincided with Su Qing's business trip. My throat tightened. This could be a coincidence, but there were too many. I kept digging and found an old news report from 3 years ago. Manning Group's new head, Su Manning, takes office low-key. The accompanying photo was a blurry profile shot. I downloaded the photo, enhanced it with software, and zoomed in. There was a small mole on the right earlobe. Su Qing also had a mole on her right earlobe. I slammed the laptop shut, cold sweat beating on my forehead. I needed more direct proof. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Su Qing had said she'd be in meetings at a client's company all day, only returning to the hotel in the evening. If she really was Su Manning. I opened the drawer of her vanity table, something she normally never let me rummage through. At the very bottom lay a small locked box. I'd seen this box a few times, Su Qing claimed it was a jewelry box her mother had left her. I fashioned a makeshift lockpick from a paperclip, a little trick my college roommate had taught me. The box clicked open. Inside, there was no jewelry, only a few bank cards and a passport. I opened the passport, my breath catching. The name field clearly printed Sue Manning, and the photo was of Su Qing without makeup. The birth year on the passport was 1 year earlier than what Su Qing had told me. Underneath was a folded piece of paper. Unfolding, it revealed a draft prenuptial agreement, dated 2 months before our wedding. A clause clearly stated, Party B, Zhang Zhang, shall not be aware of Party A, Sue Manning's true identity and financial status. My vision blurred, the paper rustling in my trembling hands. 3 years of marriage, all a lie. There was also a small USB drive in the box. With trembling hands, I plugged it into my computer. Inside, there was only one encrypted folder. After several failed attempts, I finally unlocked it using our wedding date. The folder contained dozens of documents, their titles freezing the blood in my veins. Zhang Zhang promotion evaluation, denied. Zhang Zhang business plan analysis, rejected. Zhang Zhang external offer investigation, blocked. The most recent document was created yesterday, Zhang Zhang contact surveillance report, which meticulously recorded every person I had recently been in touch with, including the recruiter who contacted me last week, and Zhao Ronghao, my college roommate and old friend who had started his own business. A note at the end read, Continue monitoring. Report immediately if any entrepreneurial intentions arise. I slumped into my chair, my stomach churning. This wasn't a marriage. It was a meticulously designed surveillance experiment. My phone buzzed suddenly, a message from Su Qing. No, Sue Manning. It's raining in Shanghai. How's the weather over there? I stared at the seemingly ordinary greeting, now dripping with irony. She was monitoring my life while pretending to care. I stood before the glass curtain wall of Manning Group's headquarters, gripping a borrowed employee ID in my hand. Today was supposed to be Li Ming, the deputy head of the tech department, who would go to the 28th floor to debug the smart system in the CEO's office. But he had something come up. Just as he was hesitating over who to send instead, I volunteered. I happened to be heading there to deliver documents for Manager Wang. I could take care of it on the way. Li Ming didn't suspect a thing and readily agreed, even granting me the access privileges for the 28th floor. Under normal company protocol, I wouldn't have the clearance or authorization to enter. But in practice, enforcement wasn't that strict. Covering for each other or swapping shifts was common, and upper management usually turned a blind eye. I had never set foot in the executive building where the CEO worked, but now, with my suspicions, I wanted to test it. I swiped Li Ming's ID and entered the building. As the elevator numbers climbed, my knuckles whitened from how tightly I clenched my fists. 2 days ago, I had discovered an encrypted itinerary on Su Qing's tablet. It clearly noted that at 10:30 this morning, Manning Group CEO, Sue Manning, would be attending the tech department's quarterly briefing. Yet last night, Su Qing had told me, I'm going on a business trip to Hangzhou tomorrow. I won't be back until evening. Ding! The elevator doors slid open silently, and the chilled air of the executive floor rushed over me. A secretary smiled and approached. You're from the tech department here for the system debug, right? CEO Sue and the others are waiting for you. I nodded, my throat tight. When I pushed open the heavy walnut door, I saw a figure standing with her back to me by the floor-to-ceiling windows. A sharp navy blue suit dress, hair pulled into an immaculate updo. The Cartier Panther bracelet on her wrist glinting under the sunlight. Beside her sat our company's manager, Lin Xuran, her eyes widening as she stared at me. I've already reviewed the system parameters. Get straight to the point. The woman's voice was cool and sharp, a far cry from the gentle Su Qing at home. When she turned around and our eyes met, the air froze. Su Qing, or rather, Sue Manning. Her pupils constricted violently, the pen in her hand clattering onto the desk. Her lips trembled slightly as she instinctively took half a step back, her high heels bumping against the leather chair behind her. I stared at her, my chest heaving, but I forcibly suppressed the storm of emotions inside. Mechanically, I opened the folder, my voice unnervingly calm. CEO Sue, hello. Regarding the upgrade plan for the smart office system, The tech department recommends implementation in 3 stages. Throughout the presentation, Sue Manning's fingertips unconsciously rubbed the edge of the table, her knuckles turning white. I could feel her gaze trying to meet mine several times, but I deliberately avoided it. She raised her hand several times, wanting to interrupt me, but I ignored her. That concludes the technical department's report. Thank you, CEO Sue. When the presentation ended, I closed the file and turned to leave without looking back. Zhang. The others in the office looked at her strangely. My hand was on the doorknob. I paused for a second, but didn't turn back. The lights at home were on. When I pushed the door open, Sue Manning was already back. She had changed into loungewear, her hair loosely tied up, as if trying to erase the image of the sharp female CEO from the daytime. On the dining table were my favorite sweet and sour pork ribs and steamed sea bass, steam rising from them, no different from any other ordinary evening. However, who would have thought that the wife I had shared a bed with for 3 years was actually the head of a corporation controlling billions in assets? The Su Qing who always complained about supermarket prices being too high, who was frugal even about taking taxis, was actually the CEO of the Manning Group. Why? The word was practically forced out between my teeth. Sue Manning. I had to call her by that name now. Took a deep breath. I'm sorry, husband. I wanted to find someone who would love me not for my wealth or status. That's why I tested you. So you deceived me for 3 years? My voice started to tremble. Watching me work overtime late into the night every day, taking the night bus to save a few bucks, eating instant noodles for a month for your birthday gift? Did you find that amusing? It wasn't like that. She took an eager step forward, but I stepped back, avoiding her. I needed to make sure you were sincere. Too many people are after my money. I had to be careful. I let out a bitter, cold laugh. Careful? Do you know what I gave up? Zhao Ronghao asked me to start a business with him before. I refused because you said you wanted a stable life. Last year, I was headhunted for a high-paying job in Shenzhen. I didn't go because you were afraid a long-distance relationship would affect us. My voice rose higher and higher. And now you tell me, this was all just a damn test. A flicker of emotion I couldn't read crossed Sue Manning's eyes. Zhang, I admit my methods might have been wrong, but I truly love you. These 3 years were the most real time of my life. Real? I interrupted her. Then what about this? My promotion being rejected, my year-end bonus inexplicably docked, my startup plan being vetoed. That was all you, wasn't it? I admit I rejected your promotion application, she finally said, but that was because I wanted you to gain more experience. Going directly into management wouldn't have been good for you. I felt a wave of dizziness and had to lean against the wall to stay steady. Every setback at work over the past 3 years, every unfair treatment, had actually come from the person I trusted most. How thoughtful of you. Hey, Sue, I said sarcastically. Then what about my startup plan? You knew it was my dream for years, yet you kept rejecting it. Su Yuan's eyes moistened. I just didn't think it was the right time to start a business. The market conditions weren't good. The success rate was too low. I wanted to protect you. Protect? I almost laughed out loud. What do you take me for? A pet that needs your protection? Su Yuan, marriage is an equal partnership, not your nurturing game. Her tears finally fell. I know I was wrong, but you can't deny our feelings. These 3 years, my care for you, everything I gave, it was all real. Real feelings built on lies. I shook my head. Do you know what the most ironic part is? I turned down the startup invitation in Shenzhen just because I wanted to give you a sense of security. Turns out you never needed my protection at all. You were just enjoying this role-playing game. Zhang, don't get worked up. Let's calm down and talk properly. She reached out to touch me, but I violently shook her hand off. There's no need. I turned and walked towards the bedroom, pulling out the long and used, dust-covered suitcase from under the bed. I bought it when I graduated from university. The sticky note that said, Startup Dream was still on it, long faded and yellowed. What are you doing? Her voice trembled with panic. Ending this joke, I mechanically stuffed clothes into the suitcase. I want a divorce. No, she rushed over, pressing down on the suitcase. Zhang, don't be rash. Listen to me, I can compensate you. You'll be promoted tomorrow. No, straight to director. The group can fully fund your star project. Whatever you want. I stopped what I was doing and looked up at her. On that familiar face, I saw not love, but fear, the fear of losing control. That's the problem, I said softly. You still don't understand. I don't want your money or position. I want respect and trust, neither of which you can give me. Her tears finally fell. Hey, don't go. I was wrong. I'll die without you. I closed the suitcase and stood up. For the first time in 3 years, I saw the chasm between us so clearly. She thought money and power could keep me, just like how she handled everything else. But some things can't be bought with checks and positions. No, you won't, I said calmly. You'll continue being President Sue, managing your business empire. And I'm going to pursue what I should have done 3 years ago. Please. She knelt on the floor, her delicate nightgown falling open, looking like a lost child. Once this sight would have broken my heart. Now, I only felt a profound weariness. I picked up the suitcase and took a final look around the small home we had shared for 3 years. In the wedding photo on the wall, we looked so happy. Thinking back now, how much of that smile was real? I'll have my lawyers send over the divorce papers, I said, then turned toward the door. Don't worry, I'll only take what's rightfully mine. I won't ask for your money. Zhang Ziang, she screamed behind me. You'll regret this. Without my support, your startup will never succeed. I stopped at the door without looking back. Maybe, but at least this time, if I fail, it will be my own choice. Su Qing suddenly rushed over and hugged me tightly. Don't go, Zin. What I just said was out of anger. Stay, please. I'll invest in your dream. There's no need. I slowly pried her fingers away. I don't need investment from someone who doesn't believe I can succeed. The sound of the door closing was piercingly loud in the late-night hallway. As the elevator descended, I felt a strange sense of liberation. 3 years. I could finally breathe. Stepping out of the residential complex, the cold night wind hit me again. I took out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't contacted in almost 3 years. Hello, Zhao Ronghao. It's me, Zhang Zhang. I heard myself say. About that startup plan you mentioned before. I want to join now. Is there still a chance? After hanging up the phone, I looked up at the window of our former home. The light was still on. A blurry figure stood at the window. I didn't wave. I just turned and walked toward the subway station, towards my new life. This time, I would live for my dream. Zhao Ronghao's apartment was tidier than I imagined. In the small 2-bedroom apartment, the most conspicuous thing was the huge whiteboard on the living room wall, densely covered with algorithmic formulas and market analysis. Welcome to my startup headquarters. Zhao Ronghao grinned, taking my suitcase. He looked the same as always, just with a few more gray hairs at his temples. The company logo on his t-shirt indicated he was now the CTO of a small tech company. Sorry for dropping in unexpectedly. I glanced around. The dining table was piled high with takeout boxes and energy drink cans. Looks like you're doing okay. Just getting by. He poured me a beer. So what exactly happened? Weren't you supposed to be taking care of your wife? Why the sudden interest in the startup now? The beer was cold and bitter, sliding down my throat. How could I explain all this absurdity? I'm getting a divorce. Zhao Ronghao raised an eyebrow. Huh? Weren't you two deeply in love? Lao Zhao, Su Qing, is actually Sue Manning. I said it plainly. The name felt strangely foreign on my tongue for the first time. Who? He paused for a couple of seconds, then his eyes widened. Wait, the Sue Manning? From Manning Group? I nodded. Watching his jaw drop further and further, I found it somewhat amusing. Wait, so for the past 3 years? Zhao Ronghao stared at me, incredulous. You're not joking, are you? I shook my head. Do I look like I'm joking? Then you should have been happy, right? Why the divorce? Take it from your bro. Living off your wife isn't shameful. Zhao Ronghao deadpanned, though he was talking nonsense. What's happy about that? Being treated like a lab rat, an experiment to see how long a man could go on without knowing his wife was a billionaire. With a wry smile, I took out my phone and showed him the photos of the documents. Zhao Ronghao scrolled through them, his expression shifting from shock to anger. She vetoed your promotion? Monitored your communications? What the fuck is this, a marriage or espionage? Bit of both, maybe. I tilted my head back and finished the beer. The point is, I'm free now. I want to talk about that startup plan we had. Zhao Ronghao's eyes lit up. He jumped up, dashed into the study, and came back with a laptop. You couldn't have come at a better time. On the screen was a clean interface displaying a complex algorithmic model. Remember that intelligent supply chain system we conceptualized back then? I've kept refining it. This current version can already. He launched into an enthusiastic explanation of the technical details. As I listened, I felt the blood rushing through my veins again. For the first time in 3 years, I felt a long-lost passion and hope. How much startup capital do we need? I asked. Zhao Ronghao scratched his head. With $500,000, we could probably get the first beta version done. But the problem is... What's the problem? Client resources. He sighed. Large corporations won't risk using a startup's product, and our algorithm needs real-world data for training. I thought for a moment. I know a few people in the supply chain department at Manning Group. Maybe. No way. Zhao Ronghao cut me off sharply. You absolutely cannot have any dealings with Sue Manning. From her description, I get the feeling that if we choose her, she'll swallow us whole, bones and all. He guessed right. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Sorry, occupational hazard. I'll figure out a way to contact other companies. That night, I slept on Zhao Ronghao's sofa, but slept more soundly than I did at home. Early morning, my phone's vibration startled me awake. The screen showed Wang Lei, supervisor. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Zhang Ziang, where are you? Wang Lei's voice boomed, making my ears ache. The whole company is looking for you. I took leave today. I frowned. Took leave? Bro, you've been promoted straight to general manager of the tech department. The appointment ceremony is at 10 today. The president herself will be attending. My fingers clenched around the phone. What? Cut the act. HR said the document was specially approved by President Su, skipping 3 levels, salary doubled, plus stock options. Didn't you get the company email? Where are you now? I'll send a car for you. I hung up the phone, realizing my hand was trembling. I opened my phone. There was an unread company email. Mr. Zhang Ziang is promoted to general manager of the technology department effective immediately. Annual salary adjusted to $2 million, along with equity incentives. Sue Manning moved faster than I'd expected. The phone immediately rang again, this time an unfamiliar number. I answered, hearing a woman's voice. Hello, Mr. Zhang. I am lawyer Zhang from Manning Group's legal department. President Sue asked me to contact you regarding the divorce. She hopes to meet with you this afternoon. Tell her to send the agreement directly to my lawyer when it's ready, I said coldly. Mr. Zhang. The person on the other end hesitated. President Sue said, if you attend the appointment ceremony today, she's willing to discuss the divorce details with you. I hung up immediately and tossed the phone onto the sofa. Zhao Ronghao came out of the bedroom, rubbing his eyes. Who was that so early? Your wife. Yes, it was Sue Manning. I nodded with a wry smile and tossed him the phone. She promoted me, general manager of the tech department. Zhao Ronghao whistled. Wow, quite the price tag. Why not just go along with her? He patted my shoulder. After all, she's your wife. You can't avoid seeing her. This isn't a price, it's shackles. I got up and started putting on my jacket. I need to go to the office and get my things. Want me to come with you? Zhao Ronghao asked. I shook my head. No need. This is my own private matter. The lobby of Manning Group was busier than usual. The receptionist saw me, her eyes wide. Mr. Manager Zhang, congratulations. President Sue is waiting for you on the 28th floor. I walked straight to the elevators, feeling eyes on me from all directions. Some envious, some confused, but mostly calculating, wondering just who this guy was who had shot up the ranks so suddenly. My desk had been cleared out. My computer and personal belongings were gone. Wang Lei came jogging over. Zhang Ziang. No, President Zhang. Your office is on the 28th floor. Everything's been moved up there. I'm just here to collect my things, I said calmly. Stop kidding. President Sue has been waiting all morning. All the company executives are in the conference room. He lowered his voice. Bro, what strings did you pull? I didn't answer, just turned and headed for the elevators. The 28th floor housed the executive offices, a place I'd never been before. When the elevator doors opened, Secretary Lin was already waiting. President Zhang, this way, please. She led me down a wide corridor, flanked by offices with nameplates on the doors. The door to the conference room at the end of the hall was ajar, and I could hear Sue Manning's voice reviewing some project. Secretary Lin knocked softly on the door. President Sue, Mr. Zhang is here. The conversation in the conference room stopped abruptly. The door opened fully, revealing a dozen executives seated on both sides of a long table. They all looked over in unison. And at the head of the table sat Sue Manning, dressed in an ivory white suit, her makeup exquisite, looking flawless. "Zhang is here," she said with a smile, as if nothing had happened between us. "Please sit." She pointed to the empty seat on her right. I stood rooted to the spot. "I'm here to collect my personal belongings." The air in the conference room froze. Sue Manning's smile stiffened for a second before returning. "Everyone, please give us a few minutes." The executives quickly left their seats. The last one to leave, General Manager Lin Xiuran, thoughtfully closed the door behind her. Sue Manning approached cautiously. "Zhang, don't be angry anymore." From across the desk, she tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "I'm sorry, husband. It was my fault. Please forgive me." "No need. I came today to resign," I said flatly, placing my resignation letter directly onto her huge mahogany desk, "and also to discuss when we can get a divorce. I'll leave once we're done talking." Her gaze swept over the envelope, her lip twitching slightly. "Zhang, we can talk this through." She walked around the desk towards me, her high heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. "I was too emotional yesterday. I know what I did was wrong. It was my fault. So I prepared a new position for you. If you're not satisfied with the tech department, I can make you vice president overseeing innovation, reporting directly to me." "Okay. Look." She took a hot stamp folder from her drawer and opened it to the first page. I glanced at it. It was indeed a promotion notice. The annual salary listed was more than 10 times my current level. In this card, she took out a bank card from the drawer. "There are $3 million in here. If it's not enough, I can transfer $500,000 to you every month from now on. You can." "Also, Zhang." She pushed a check towards me, the amount field blank. "I know you want to start your own business. I can invest. You can fill in the amount yourself. Invest in any startup idea you have. Of course," she added, "it would be best if you still developed within the Manning system." I stared at the flimsy yet heavy-as lead check, the Manning Group logo gleaming on it, and I suddenly laughed. 3 years ago, an opportunity like this would have made me ecstatic. Now, I only felt a wave of sorrow. "So, this is your solution? Trying to buy me off with money and a position?" "This isn't buying you off." She finally raised her voice, her meticulously manicured nails leaving an indent on the check. "I just want to compensate you. And besides, this is an opportunity you deserve. Zhang, your performance over the past 3 years has been outstanding. It's just my fault for wanting you to settle in more, to gain more experience." "Deserve." I picked up the check and, under her suddenly brightened gaze, slowly tore it in half. "You've been pulling the brakes behind my back the whole time." I sneered. "What?" A sudden attack of conscience. What I deserved was the promotion I should have gotten 3 years ago, the startup plan that should have been approved 2 years ago, and the basic respect and trust a husband is due. The pieces of paper fluttered down from my fingers like pale snow. Sue Manning's face fell along with the scraps of paper. I know I was wrong. She suddenly grabbed my wrist, and I was surprised to find her hand trembling. "Zhang, give me a chance to make amends. We can start over. I was originally planning to tell you the truth on our wedding anniversary, but who knew you'd find out first? Can you just forget these past 3 years?" "Forget?" I pulled my hand away. "Forget how you manipulated my career like I was your puppet? Forget how you treated me like a lab rat?" A panic I had never seen before finally surfaced in her eyes. "It wasn't like that. I was just afraid of losing you." Her voice grew smaller, eventually turning into a sob. "If you had known who I was from the beginning, I just wanted to find someone who truly loved me. Afraid I didn't truly love you. Is that it?" I sneered. "That I was only with you for your money? So you prefer to spin a lie, testing me for 6 years? We were together, in love for 3 years, married for 3 years, 6 years, and you still couldn't tell if I truly loved you." She stumbled back a step as if struck, a few strands of her meticulously styled hair coming loose, trembling beside her cheek. "We can start over. Forget the past misunderstandings. I can give you platforms and resources. And continue being your marionette. Have my project controlled by you." I took a step back. "No need." "I'm sorry, husband." "Tell me, Sue Manning." I stepped closer, In these past 3 years, was there even a single day you loved me as your true self? Tears finally broke through her delicate eye makeup, streaking down her face. Every day, trembling, she pulled out a thin chain from around her neck, one I had always assumed was just decorative. A small key hung from it. This is the key to the penthouse apartment in Manning Tower. I've worn it ever since our wedding day. Every day, I've been waiting for you to be truly ready to accept all of me. I stared at the small key glinting under the light, my chest feeling as though it had been struck by a heavy hammer. How ironic. She kept the key, symbolizing wealth, close to her body, yet locked away the ring, symbolizing marriage, in a drawer. It's too late. I stepped back again. If you don't agree to the divorce, I'll get a lawyer. They will contact you to handle the proceedings. Her eyes began to redden. Ziyang, what will it take for you to agree not to divorce? Or rather, what do you want? Money? The company? Name it. I can negotiate anything, agree to anything. I want you to respect my choice. I looked directly into her eyes. I want a divorce. Then what do you want me to do? Her voice started to tremble. Neil, don't you understand yet? I gently pushed her hand away. The issue isn't money. It's respect. You still think money can solve everything. Ziyang, she rushed forward to block my path, tears smudging her makeup, revealing faint dark circles underneath. I'll die without you. Sign the divorce papers. I turned toward the door. My lawyer will contact you. This was the first time since we met that I had seen her lose composure like this. The always poised and elegant Sue Manning was gone, replaced by a desperate woman. Zhang Ziyang. Her voice suddenly turned sharp. You think starting a business is that easy? Without my support, you couldn't even afford to rent an office. I stopped but didn't turn back. Then let me fail. At least it will be my own failure. As I walked out of the building, the sunlight stung my eyes. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Zhao Ronghao. How's it going? Still alive, I replied. Alive, and even more certain about starting the business. We'll talk tonight. That night, we stayed up all night revising the business plan. At 3 a.m, my old phone suddenly received a text message from Sue Manning using that Su Qing number. I was wrong, Z. I hope you can forgive me. I won't bother you again. Wishing you happiness. I stared at the message for a long time, unsure whether to believe it. But regardless, the path had already been chosen. What's wrong? Zhao Ronghao looked up from his code. I handed him the phone. He whistled. Giving up. Don't know. I shook my head. But regardless, we start looking for investors tomorrow. Zhao Ronghao grinned. Manning Group's competitors should be very interested. Outside the window, the first rays of dawn pierced the darkness. For the first time in 3 years, I felt the future was full of possibilities, not granted by someone else's favor, but created by my own 2 hands. I've been crashing on Zhao Ronghao's sofa for a whole week, the laptop's cooling fan whirring constantly. On the screen was the 27th revision of the business plan. Old Zhao, take a look at this technical architecture description. I turned my head, only to find him frowning at his phone. Here we go again. He turned the screen to me. That's the 3rd headhunter call, offering $5 million annual salary to poach me for an overseas position. I scoffed. She certainly is persistent. Digging out the old hard drive from 3 years ago, I found the initial proposal that Sue Manning had rejected back then. Back then, she had nestled in my arms, her fingertip tracing across the screen as she said, "This business model is too idealistic. The market research isn't thorough enough. The technical implementation is too difficult." Looking at it now, every point she'd marked in red was precisely the cutting edge of the industry today. She had understood it all along, but deliberately held me back in a mediocre position. Zhao Ronghao's sofa was more uncomfortable than I'd expected. As I turned over, a spring dug sharply into my lower back, the pain jolting me wide awake. Morning light stabbed through the gap in the drawn curtains. I squinted at my phone, 6:23 a.m. The whirring of the coffee machine came from the kitchen. Rubbing my lower back, I sat up. Zhao Ronghao was already working at his laptop. Several empty Red Bull cans scattered on the table. "Morning, CEO," he greeted without looking up. "Sleep well." Like sleeping on a bed of nails. I stretched my aching back. "Are you always up this early?" "Entrepreneurs don't have sleep schedules." He pushed a cup of black coffee towards me. "Try this." Imported Indonesian beans. How does it compare to the stuff in the Manning Group executive lounge? The coffee, bitter with a fruity note, was surprisingly good. I glanced around the cramped little apartment, contrasting it with Sue Manning's penthouse overlooking the entire CBD, and suddenly laughed. At least the coffee here isn't laced with control. Zhao Ronghao grinned and turned his laptop screen towards me. Look at this. On the screen was a document covered in red annotations. The business plan I'd written 3 years ago. But those annotations, my stomach clenched. This is your ex-wife's feedback. Zhao Ronghao sneered. I recovered it from the company's servers. She didn't just reject your plan. She systematically dismantled every innovative point. I leaned closer to the screen. The calm, professional comment stung my eyes. Market analysis overly optimistic. Actual capacity less than 30% of projection. Technical route presents patent risks. Recommend abandonment. Team lacks relevant experience. Success rate below industry average. Each comment struck precisely at the core value of the proposal, yet masqueraded as objective evaluation. The most ironic part was the seal stamped in the signature space. Manning Group Innovation Investment Committee, dated just a week after I had submitted the proposal full of hope. Did she ever tell you this evaluation existed? Zhao Ronghao asked. I shook my head, my throat tightening. At the time, my supervisor had just vaguely said it wasn't approved upstairs, so I resigned myself to burying my head back in work, thinking my idea truly wasn't good enough. The good news is Zhao Ronghao tapped the keyboard a few times. Every point she rejected has now become our advantage. A new analysis chart popped up on the screen. Look, she thought the market size was small because she only counted traditional enterprises. But over the past 3 years, the demand for digitalization among small and medium-sized enterprises has exploded. They are precisely our target customers. Listening to Zhao Ronghao's analysis, I gradually recovered my ability to think from a shock. He was right. The blind spots in the proposal, evaluated by Sue Manning with a big corporation mindset, were exactly where the market opportunities lay now. How much money do we need to start? I asked. 500,000 can get us a beta version, but it would be best to have 1.5 million to last through the first 6 months. Zhao Ronghao scratched his head. The problem is if we look for investors now, they'll call Sue Manning first. I finished his thought. In the business world, the Manning Group's influence was enough to make most investors hesitate. Zhao Ronghao suddenly slapped the table. Wait, there's a startup roadshow next week, organized by a new fund back from Silicon Valley. They probably have no connection with Sue Manning. We could. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Zhao Ronghao went to open the door and returned holding an express document envelope. For you. I tore open the seal, and a stack of documents slid out, a divorce agreement. Attached was a note. I've signed. Good luck. Sue Manning. The handwriting was neat and crisp, devoid of extra emotion. I flipped to the last page and indeed saw Sue Manning's elegant signature. The terms of the agreement were surprisingly generous. Joint property split 50-50, even including a small apartment registered under her name. Is she letting go? Zhao Ronghao asked, puzzled. I carefully examined every clause, looking for hidden traps, but found nothing. It was too easy, not like Sue Manning style. I don't know. I put the agreement aside, but regardless, we need to prepare for the roadshow. The following week, we worked like crazy, just like back in our university days. Zhao Ronghao handled the technical architecture, while I refined the business plan. During the day, I visited potential early customers. At night, we huddled around the coffee table revising the plan. The humble environment paradoxically spurred creativity. Without a luxurious office and assistant team, we had to take responsibility for every decision ourselves. The night before the roadshow, while we were doing our final rehearsal, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Zhou Yan, a partner at a well-known venture capital firm. Mr. Zhou, I answered puzzled. Zhang Ziang. Heard you're starting a company. Zhou Yan's voice was suspiciously enthusiastic. Why didn't you say so earlier? I happen to be free tomorrow. We could meet. After hanging up, Zhao Ronghao and I looked at each other. How did he know? Zhao Ronghao asked. I don't know, but it's definitely not good. I opened my laptop and searched for Zhou Yan's latest activities, and sure enough, Found a news item from 2 weeks ago. Manning Group had reached a strategic partnership with Zhou Yan's fund. A trap, Zhao Ronghao said through gritted teeth. I dug deeper and found something fishy about tomorrow's roadshow judges list. 2 of the 3 judges have business dealings with Manning Group. Are we still going? Zhao Ronghao asked. This discovery made my brows furrow. Could this be Sue Manning's doing again? We're going, I answered after thinking for a long time, closing my laptop. But we'll go about it differently. The next morning, the roadshow hall at the Venture Capital Tower was packed. Zhao Ronghao and I were 7th in line to present. The first few entrepreneurs confidently discussed market size and exit strategies. The judges nodded politely. Next up, Yangrong Technology. We walked onto the stage. I noticed Zhou Yin sitting at the far end of the judges' table. He gave me a meaningful smile. In the back row of the audience, a woman wearing a baseball cap was looking down and taking notes. Her profile looked remarkably like Sue Manning's secretary. Hello, everyone. I adjusted the microphone. We're not planning to present a PowerPoint today. A stir went through the hall. Zhao Ronghao brought up a monitor directly and connected it to his laptop. Please allow us to show you something more substantial. For the next 20 minutes, we completely skipped the standard business plan presentation and directly demonstrated the system's core functions. Zhao Ronghao typed a few lines of code, bringing up the test interface, while I used actual case studies to show how the algorithm optimized supply chain efficiency. This module can increase the inventory turnover rate for small and medium-sized enterprises by 40%, I said, pointing to the fluctuating data on the screen, whereas traditional systems offer a maximum improvement of 15%. The judge's expressions changed from puzzled to surprised. Zhou Yin started checking his phone frequently, and the secretary in the back row also stopped taking notes. During the Q&A session, one judge asked about the patent situation. Zhao Ronghao was prepared. We have applied for 3 patents for our core technology, all held under personal names, completely unrelated to any former employers. Zhou Yin finally spoke. Mr. Zhang, your technology is outstanding. But starting a business requires not only technology, but also resources and connections. Have you considered seeking support from strategic investors? There was a hidden meaning in his words. I responded with a smile. We welcome all investors who recognize the value of our technology, but the fate of Yangrong Technology will remain solely in the hands of those who created it. When the roadshow ended, we received the loudest applause of the event. Several genuine tech investors immediately gathered around to exchange business cards, while Zhou Yin and the suspicious secretary quietly left. Did we succeed? Zhao Ronghao asked on the subway ride back, still incredulous. Just the first step, I reminded him, but the corners of my mouth couldn't help but lift. This was the first time in 3 years I had felt a pure sense of accomplishment, not because of anyone's favor, but through my own capabilities. However, the good times didn't last long. Early the next morning, Zhao Ronghao burst into the living room. Something's happened. He opened a startup forum, and a trending post was glaringly visible. Beware the husband and wife team scam. Inside story of a former executive using ex-wife's resources to start a business. Although the article didn't name names, anyone in the industry could tell it was referring to me. What the F? Zhao Ronghao was so angry his hands trembled. I calmly finished reading the article, full of insinuations, very much Sue Manning style. Over the next few days, investors who had previously shown interest all backed out. A client who had promised to provide trial data also suddenly went back on their word. Worse still, Zhao Ronghao discovered someone was trying to poach core engineers from his team. We're finished. Friday night, Zhao Ronghao collapsed onto the sofa, empty beer cans piled up in front of him. No investment, no clients, we can't even keep the team together. I stared at the bank balance on the computer screen. The money from the asset division settlement could last us 3 months, but without a breakthrough. Wait a little longer. The doorbell rang. Zhao Ronghao staggered to open the door, returning with a business card in his hand. Someone wants to see you. 10 a.m. tomorrow, Four Seasons Hotel. The card only had a name, Lin Song, and a phone number. On the back, handwritten, was interested in Yangrong Technology. Lin Song, I frowned. Never heard of an investor by that name. Who cares? Zhao Ronghao perked up again. Right now, as long as there's a check, we'll even take the devil's investment. The next day, I went alone to the Four Seasons Hotel. The third day, waiting for me in the penthouse suite was a lean man in his 60s, dressed in a plain Zhongshan suit, brewing gongfu tea. Mr. Zhang, please sit. He gestured. Try this tea, the Hong Pao from Wui Mountain, the authentic kind you can't find elsewhere. I cautiously took a sip. It was indeed mellow with a sweet aftertaste. Mr. Lin, what field do you invest in? I invest in people, not projects. He refilled my tea, especially people with backbone. I became alert. You know Sue Manning? He smiled faintly. I watch her grow up. Her father, Suzy Yuan, was an old friend of mine. Seeing my expression change, he held up a hand. Don't be nervous. I'm not here to plead her case. In fact, I quite admire you for refusing her good intentions. Then, old Lin, since you know her well, about that recent article smearing us. She didn't order it. For what I know of her, she wouldn't stoop to such methods. Lin Song shook his head. It was her subordinates, trying to anticipate her wishes. Manning only found out this morning and has already had the article pulled. I sneered. She's always fixing things after the fact. Everyone has limitations. The old man sighed. Manning was taught from a young age that trust is dangerous and love must be controlled. Her father. Well, let's not talk about that. I came to see you today to discuss an investment. Why should I trust you? Because you have no choice, he stated bluntly. Within 3 days, Manning Group will announce a preview for a product similar to your technology. With their resources, they can produce a basic version within 2 months. At that point, I gripped my teacup tightly. This was exactly Sue Manning's style. If you can't control it, destroy it. What do you want? I asked. Very simple. Lin Song pushed a check across the table. $3 million for 20% equity. I won't interfere with operations, just appoint a financial supervisor. The number on the check was indeed tempting, but what are the conditions? No hidden clauses. He smiled. Only one suggestion. Register the company in the Cayman Islands, transfer the patents to a personal holding company. This way, even if things change later, the core technology won't fall into the wrong hands. The suggestion was highly professional, even seeming to anticipate Sue Manning's likely next move. I stared into the old man's eyes. Who exactly are you? Why are you helping us? Let's just call it an old man's appreciation for young talent. He stood up to see me out. The check is valid until 5 p.m. today. You can have someone check my background, though you won't find much. The meeting room door was suddenly pushed open, and a girl in an apricot suit carrying a tea tray walked in. Uncle, your blood pressure medication. The pen in my hand clattered onto the table. The girl looked up. We both froze. Lu Jing, a junior from my university's computer science department, someone I'd teamed up with at a hackathon once. Zhang Ziang. Her eyes widened. Is it really you? Mister. Lin looked at us. You know each other? Lu Jing put down the tea tray and began speaking rapidly. He's my senior from university. The campus smart butler system we developed back then won first prize in the East China region. She turned to me. I heard you went to Manning Group later on. My throat tightened. I just resigned. That's great. Her eyes lit up. I'm looking for an internship right now. Does your team still need people? Mister. Lin suddenly laughed. Xiao Jing studies computer science. She could certainly try getting into a tech company. He tapped my business plan. How about this? I'll add another 1 million. Let Xiao Jing join and learn. After signing the contract and stepping out, Lu Jing caught up to me at the elevator. Senior, can I add you on WeChat? As she scanned the QR code, I noticed her phone case was printed with Never Settle, our team motto from the competition back then. Leaving the hotel, I immediately contacted a friend in venture capital to look into Lin Song. The reply was surprising. This person was one of the first internet investors back in the 90s, with a mysterious background but a sharp eye. Nearly all his investments were successful. The strangest part was, he faded from the scene 10 years ago and rarely appeared in person. If this guy wants to invest in you, you should get on your knees and take the money, my friend said, half joking. Back at the apartment, Zhao Ronghao and I carefully reviewed the investment agreement. There were indeed no traps. At 4:50 p.m., I called Lin Song. We accept the investment. A wise choice. His voice held a hint of a smile. The funds will arrive tomorrow. By the way, I suggest you change your office location. I know a nice office in the science park just became available. Hanging up, Zhao Ronghao and I looked at each other and smiled. Outside the window, the setting sun dyed the city gold. For the first time in 3 years, I felt that destiny was truly in my own hands, regardless of where this opportunity came from. Chapter 17. Counterattack in Adversity. The office on the 17th floor of the science park was much more spacious than Zhao Ronghao's apartment. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the ant-like pedestrians below, holding the newly acquired business license in my hand. Yangrong Intelligent Technology Co. Ltd. Mr. Zhang, your coffee. Lu Jing placed the cup on my desk with a grin. The title made me a bit uncomfortable. 2 weeks ago, I was just a monitored middle manager at Manning Group, and now I was the CEO of a startup. Thanks, just call me Ziyang. I took a sip of coffee and looked toward the other end of the office. Zhao Ronghao was deep in discussion with our technical team, the whiteboard covered in flowcharts. For the first time in 3 years, I felt that work could be this pure. My phone vibrated. The screen displayed Zhou Yin. Since the roadshow, this venture capital partner had already called 3 times. I hesitated for a moment, then answered, Zhang Ziyang. Congratulations on the new office. Zhou Yan's voice sounded extremely enthusiastic. I hear you snagged the best spot in the science park. Seems old, mister. Lin thinks highly of you. I tightened my grip on the phone. We hadn't publicly announced our office address, let alone mentioned Lin Song's investment. Mr. Zhou, you're certainly well informed, I said calmly. Haha, it's a small circle. He gave a dry laugh. Actually, I wanted to play the peacemaker. Ms. Su asked me to pass on a message. She's willing to acquire Yangrong Tech at double the valuation, and you can stay on as CEO. Please thank Ms. Su for her kind offer. I interrupted him. Yangrong is not for sale. Don't be so quick to refuse. Zhou Yin lowered his voice. You know Manning Group is launching their Liantong system next week, right? Their functionality is almost the same as yours, but they have existing sales channels and a customer base. I hung up immediately, my palms sweating. Zhao Ronghao came over, frowning. Was that Zhou Yin again? Manning Group is releasing a competing product. I opened my computer to search for related news, and sure enough, saw industry gossip. Manning Group was about to launch Chainlink, an intelligent supply chain system for SMEs, emphasizing lightweight, efficient, low cost. How could they do that? Lu Jing muttered, pouting. Zhao Ronghao, however, turned pale. Impossible. Not this fast, unless they had already. They stole our idea long ago. I opened the Manning Group's official website. Listed prominently in the research team introductions were several familiar names, all engineers who had previously shown interest in Zhao Ronghao's algorithm. That bastard Liu Pei. Zhao Ronghao slammed his fist on the table. 2 months ago, he took me out for drinks and asked a ton of technical details. We immediately called a meeting with the core team. After hearing the situation, the young engineers' expressions ranged from anger to worry. They have deep pockets. How can we compete? Xiao Chun, the front-end developer, voiced everyone's concern. I didn't answer directly, but instead turned on the projector and displayed a photo of Zhao Ronghao and me from 3 years ago, 2 university students crammed in a dorm room, programming on a beat-up computer. Back then we had nothing, just a bunch of wild ideas. I switched to a photo of our current office. Look at us now. Manning Group can copy our technology, but they can't steal our creativity and determination. Zhao Ronghao continued. Besides, their system definitely has flaws. Liu Pei only understood the basics. They can't replicate the core algorithm. Chapter 18. Team Crisis. After the meeting, the team's morale clearly improved. But I knew morale alone wasn't enough. Lu Jing sat cross-legged in front of the floor-to-ceiling window in the new office, sticking cartoon stickers onto his server chassis. Behold my consecration ritual. It'll bring Ziyang, President Zhang's company, good luck. She explained earnestly to the gathered tech team. Don't tell me you don't believe it. Seeing their skeptical looks, she added, when I worked at Google, I plastered Hatsune Miku stickers all over the servers, and their operational efficiency improved by 20%. Xiao Yang quietly asked me, President Zhang, was Miss Lu really nominated for a Turing Award? Before I could answer, Lu Jing tossed a USB drive over. See paper number 37 in the research database for yourself. And by the way, the code you wrote last week has 3 potential bugs. I've highlighted them in red. Xiaoyang took the USB drive, his face flushing red. She bounced over to me, her ponytail brushing my chin. I have an idea about Sue Manning sending corporate spies. Want to play for high stakes? I left a backdoor in Manning's supply chain system. Absolutely not. Li Hao and I exclaimed in unison. Just kidding. She stuck out her tongue, but secretly typed a note on my tablet. Their system really does have a vulnerability. We can use it at a critical moment. I silently turned off the tablet. That evening, Zhao Ronghao and I stayed late in the office discussing strategy. Lu Jing volunteered to stay and work overtime too. We need to speed things up. I flipped through the calendar. If we can release a beta version before Manning launches theirs, we can seize the initiative. We need at least 6 more weeks. Zhao Ronghao shook his head. And we lack industry data to train the model. Or we could just do what I suggested and use their vulnerability. Lu Jing suddenly interjected, running over. No, I cut her off immediately. Good grief, Lu Jing, get a rest, will you? Stingy. I told you my method works, you just have to keep at it. Lu Jing mumbled as she walked. Seeing Lu Jing like this, I couldn't help but give a wry smile. I thought of someone, old Zhao, my former colleague from the Manning Group, now in charge of the supply chain data department. After hesitating repeatedly, I finally called him. Old Zhao, it's Zhang Ziang. I have an awkward favor to ask. Half an hour later, I hung up, relieved. Old Zhao agreed to anonymously provide some anonymized data, purely out of friendship. Consider it repaying the favors for all the years you looked out for me at work. That's what he said. The next day, troubles came one after another. First, the building management suddenly notified us about electrical maintenance, requiring us to suspend work for a day. On the 3rd day, 2 potential clients called simultaneously, vaguely postponing cooperation talks. The worst came at noon, a lawyer's letter. The Manning Group accused us of suspected infringement of trade secrets and demanded we immediately cease related technology development. This is a fucking blatant threat. Zhao Ronghao fumed, pacing back and forth in the office. I have a way to divert their attention. Just use my... Lu Jing said, handing me a cup of coffee. Don't, Grandma Lu. Zhao Ronghao interrupted her. It hasn't reached the point of mutual destruction yet. I read the lawyer's letter carefully and noticed a detail. They haven't filed for an injunction. They're just threatening to sue. What's the difference? Zhao Ronghao asked. Lu Jing also looked at me. It means they lack sufficient evidence, I analyzed. If they really had proof of infringement, the first thing they'd do is apply for a court injunction to freeze our operations. Just as we were discussing counter-strategies, little Zhang ran in flustered. Mr. Zhang, little Chun and little Li from the tech department want to see you. 2 young engineers walked in, looking constrained. Little Chun spoke first. Mr. Zhang, people from the Manning Group contacted us, offering double the salary. Are you jumping ship? Zhao Ronghao asked directly. No, little Li quickly shook his head. We refused. But they said Yang Rong won't last 3 months. Told us not to go down with the sinking ship. Hey, not bad, little Li. Lu Jing patted little Li's shoulder. Don't worry. Trust Big Sis's judgment. This company definitely has a future. Lu Jing's words made everyone give wry smiles. Thank you for your trust. We really can't offer such high salaries right now. But you have to believe, once the company goes public, the options and shares we promised will absolutely materialize. Definitely better than Manning. I took over the conversation. Mr. Zhang, you're too kind. We're staying precisely because we can see the product's future. But we're worried others might not resist the temptation. We'll take that into consideration. After seeing the 2 loyal employees out, we fell into silence. Sue Manning's offensive was fiercer than expected, attacking our team, clients, and even our work environment from all angles. We have to fight back, Zhao Ronghao said through gritted teeth. Right, we really should strike back at that bitch. Lu Jing's eyes lit up. Attack their back door? I shook my head. No, getting bogged down in confrontation will only drain our energy and tie up our time. Let's stick to the original plan, push forward with the product, and let our strength speak for itself. The next 2 weeks were hell mode. We readjusted our product roadmap, focusing on differentiated features that the Manning Group couldn't easily replicate. The team spontaneously worked overtime. No one complained. Everyone was spurred on by a sort of tragic heroism, a feeling of resisting the giant corporation. Lin Song made one mysterious appearance during this period. The old man listened to our predicament and only said, "Focus on the product, I'll handle the rest." The next day, the property management withdrew the maintenance notice and even apologized, calling it a communication misunderstanding. Manning Group's chain-link system was released as scheduled, with a huge media campaign. We nervously studied the launch event recording and found its core functions were indeed similar to our concept. But the details were handled crudely, especially the intelligent optimization module, which was clearly the work of an amateur. "They won't survive the first actual customer use," Zhao Ronghao asserted. Sure enough, critical voices about Chainlink soon appeared on industry forums. A customer who had tried to complain, "The interface is nice, but the optimization suggestions are worse than my own judgment based on experience." Meanwhile, our beta version received surprisingly positive reviews within a limited scope. Several trial customers introduced by Old Zhao provided detailed suggestions for improvement, but the overall evaluation was disruptive innovation. Just as the situation was improving, an unexpected discovery completely changed the game. While reviewing patent documents late at night, Lu Jing suddenly exclaimed, "I found it." She pointed to a diagram in an early patent filing by Manning Group on the screen. "Look at this parameter setting." To circumvent our algorithm patent, they used an alternative solution, but it has a serious flaw. When the inventory turnover rate exceeds a certain threshold, the system gives completely wrong advice. We immediately simulated this scenario, and the results were shocking. Under certain specific conditions, the chain-link system would advise clients to hoard large quantities of unsellable goods, leading to disastrous consequences. This could ruin them. Zhao Ronghao's eyes lit up. "We just need to find a client to create this scenario, and then expose it to the media, ruin Manning Group's reputation." I finished a sentence but shook my head. "No, we don't do things like that. Zhang Ziang, they brought this on themselves." "And then what?" I retorted. "Would destroying Sue Manning's career make me happy? We started this company to prove ourselves, not for revenge. Besides, doing that would drain too much of our focus and energy. Our goal now is to strengthen ourselves first, not attack our enemies." Zhao Ronghao argued for a long time, but finally compromised. But we decided to prepare a detailed technical analysis in case Manning Group continued to suppress us. Unexpectedly, the following week was calm. Manning Group suddenly stopped all actions against us. Even Zhou Yin stopped harassing us. An objective article comparing Chainlink and Yangrong technology even appeared in the industry media, with conclusions favorable to us. Friday night, while working late into the early hours, I received a text message from an unknown number. "Flaw fixed. Thanks for holding back. Missing you, Manning." I stared at the message for a long time, but ultimately didn't reply. But in some corner of my heart, the long-suppressed anger seemed to loosen its grip slightly. Chapter 21. Late Night Confession? The next day was a small celebration for the company's 2-month anniversary. As the team crowded into the office eating pizza, Xiao Zhang suddenly shouted, "Quick, look at the news." The financial news channel was broadcasting a live breaking announcement from Manning Group. CEO Sue Manning announced she was temporarily stepping down from daily management duties, with the COO taking over responsibilities. On camera, she looked tired but calm, mentioning she needed time to handle personal matters. "Is she giving up?" Zhao Ronghao asked doubtfully. I shook my head, having a strange premonition. Sue Manning wasn't someone who gave up easily, unless she had finally started to reflect on her actions. But was she that kind of person? After the celebration ended, Lin Song paid an unexpected visit. The old man looked at the empty office and the half-eaten pizza, a satisfied smile spreading across his face. "Do you know why I invested in you?" he asked suddenly. "Is it because you saw the potential in our company's technology?" I ventured, "Because you remind me of myself 40 years ago." He gazed out the window. "Back then, Susie Yuan and I were just like this, crammed in a small office, eating instant noodles, working late nights. Until..." He paused. "Until what?" Zhao Ronghao pressed. until power and money corrupted the original intention. The old man sighed softly. Su Ziyuan chose the path of controlling everything. I chose to leave. Seeing you maintain your principles while facing pressure from the Manning Group, I'm very gratified. He left a file folder behind and departed. Inside was a yellowed, old photograph. Two young men standing proudly in front of a sign that read, Yuan Song Technology. I recognized a young Lin Song. The other one bore a striking resemblance to Su Manning. On the back of the photo was written, Ziyuan and Lin Song, summer 1995. First anniversary of our startup. Zhao Ronghao and I looked at each other, speechless. The identity of this mysterious investor was finally revealed. He wasn't just an old friend of the Su family, but also Su Ziyuan's former business partner, Su Manning's Uncle Lin. Had we gotten ourselves caught up in some kind of wealthy family feud? Zhao Ronghao asked, half joking. I didn't answer because my phone rang again. This time, it was a call from our lawyer. The Manning Group had withdrawn all threats of litigation and, unexpectedly, sent a business cooperation proposal. They stated their willingness to discuss the possibility of technological complementarity on an equal footing, the lawyer relayed. CEO Su specifically emphasized that this is purely a business consideration, and they completely respect your decision. Hanging up the phone, I walked to the window. The city lights glittered under the night sky. One of those lights belonged to Su Manning. What was she thinking at this moment? Had she really learned respect, or was she brewing a new scheme? Regardless, Yang Rong had found its footing. This time, no one could make the decision for me. Whether good or bad, it would be my own choice. When the office finally quieted down, it was already 2 in the morning. The team was asleep, haphazardly on chairs pushed together. Lu Jing somehow produced a few cans of beer and placed them gently in front of me. Here, celebratory drinks. She pulled the tab, and foam spilled on her fingers. Try it. Craft IPA. Bitter at first, but with a sweet aftertaste. I took the beer, inadvertently brushing against her foam-covered fingertips. She quickly pulled her hand back, wiped it on her jeans, and suddenly grew quiet. Moonlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling window, casting a soft, silvery edge on her usually lively profile. What are you looking at? She noticed my gaze, the tips of her ears turning slightly red. Didn't know you could be shy. I smiled and took a sip of the beer. It really was bitter than sweet. Lu Jing suddenly leaned closer, so close I could smell the faint citrus scent in her hair. Zhang, do you know why I left my job at Google to come here? Her breath brushed against my ear. It wasn't just for the algorithms. My heart skipped a beat. This proximity was too dangerous, close enough to see the shadow of her eyelashes in the moonlight. Just as the air grew thick, she suddenly pulled back, winking playfully. Of course, it was to piss off Su Manning. She skipped off to cover Zhao Ronghao with a blanket, leaving me alone, staring blankly while holding the beer can. Condensation slid down the side of the can, like an unfinished sigh. The numbers on the financial statement stung my eyes. Indeed, startups never have smooth sailing. In the 4 months since Yang Rong was founded, we had successfully developed our product and secured our first clients. But our cash burn rate was far exceeding expectations. How much is left in the account? I asked Lu Jing, rubbing my temples. Less than 800,000. She pushed up her glasses. At the current burn rate, we can last 3 weeks at most. The air in the office seemed to freeze. 3 weeks. 15 business days. Then the grim prospect of being unable to pay salaries or rent. I scanned the team in the meeting room. Zhao Ronghao, Xiao Yang, the tech lead, Director Su. Worry was etched on every face. What about client payments? I asked. Director Su shook his head. The first batch of clients won't pay the final installment until the system's been operational for 3 months, and the newly signed contracts all stipulate payment terms. What about investors? Can Mr. Lin invest another round? Xiao Yang asked hopefully. I was silent for a moment. Lin Song had made it clear, just last week, he wouldn't invest further unless we could prove the business model was viable. Maybe. I should go talk to my uncle. Lu Jing said hesitantly. Let's adjourn for now. Zhao Ronghao and I'll try to figure something out, I said. To get Lin Song to invest again, we had to prove our value, not just keep asking investors for money without delivering results. After the others had left, Zhao Ronghao slumped in his chair. Damn it, the product is obviously great. Why can't we collect? I gave a wry smile. SME digitalization is our target market, but these are precisely the clients who are slowest to pay and the most demanding. And the large enterprise clients. They're all locked down by Manning Group. What if we lower the valuation for the next funding round? Lu Jing asked tentatively. I shook my head. The market's terrible right now. A down round would just make things worse. Besides, everyone in the investment community knows about our history with Manning. Nobody wants to touch this hot potato. Just then, the receptionist knocked and entered. Mr. Zhang, a Mr. Zhou from Manning Group is here. He says he wants to discuss collaboration and investment. Zhao Ronghao and I exchange a glance. Zhou Yan, Su Manning's mouthpiece. His appearance right now was no coincidence. Show him in. Zhou Yan walked in, sharp in his suit, a confident, victorious smile on his face. He glanced around our modest office, his eyes pausing for a few seconds on the empty coffee station. Mr. Zhang, Mr. Li, long time no see. He sat down and got straight to the point. I hear you're having some cash flow issues. I gave a cold laugh. Manning Group's intelligence network is as impressive as ever. Business is war. Zhou Yin pulled a file from his briefcase. Mr. Su asked me to bring an acquisition offer. Manning Group is prepared to acquire Yangrong outright at twice your current valuation, assuming all debt. You and Mr. Li can remain with doubled salaries. I glanced at the figures. Generous, certainly. Enough for all the investors to exit happily. But as I turned to the fine print, my fingers clenched involuntarily. Post-acquisition, all core technology patents transferred to Manning Group, a 5-year non-compete clause for me personally. Major decision subject to board approval. Is this an acquisition or an enlistment offer? I pushed the file back. Zhou Yan's smile didn't waver. Mr. Zhang, be realistic. You won't survive the month. Better a dignified exit than bankruptcy and liquidation. We'd rather go bankrupt with dignity, Zhao Ronghao cut in sharply, than get rich on our knees. The smile on Zhou Yan's face flickered for an instant. Mr. Li's youthful impetuosity is understandable. But Mr. Zhang, you should understand the rules of business better. Mr. Su said this is the last chance. The last chance. The words felt like a knife twisting in my gut. 3 years ago, Su Manning had said the same thing to me. This is the last chance, back when I'd applied for a transfer to the Shenzhen branch. I gave it up for her, and then, please convey my thanks to CEO Su for her kind offer. I stood up. Yangrong technology is not for sale. Zhou Yin shook his head, as if looking at a naive child. CEO Zhang, letting emotions dictate your actions won't solve anything. How about this? Our group will give you 24 hours to consider. The offer expires after that. After seeing Zhou Yin off, Zhao Ronghao slammed his fist against the wall. That bit. Bad woman. Zhao Ronghao looked at me guiltily, then continued. She knew exactly that we were tight on funds. Oh, little Zhaozi cursed well. Lu Jing nodded. My dear lady, there are people around. Zhao Ronghao said helplessly. Can you please call me CEO Zhao? Okay, little Zhaozi, Lu Jing replied. Zhao Ronghao. Lu Jing's banter calmed us down. Calm down. I forced myself to think. There must be another way. We spent the entire afternoon contacting all possible investors and clients, but the results were despairing. They either politely declined or proposed even harsher terms than Manning. In the evening, the team stayed behind to work overtime voluntarily, trying to find a way out of this desperate situation. Looking at these loyal partners, my heart filled with guilt. Everyone, go home for now. I forced myself to sound cheerful. We'll figure something out tomorrow. After everyone had left, I stood alone in front of the office's floor-to-ceiling window. The city was brightly lit in the night, and the lights from the distant Manning Group building were particularly glaring. Maybe Zhou Yin was right. Maybe I really was too driven by emotion. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. It was an unknown number. When I answered, a familiar female voice made my whole body stiffen. Zhang, it's me. Su Manning. The voice I hadn't heard in 3 months could still instantly evoke a physical memory in me. CEO Su, what can I do for you? I deliberately used a business tone to mask my racing heartbeat. Ziyang, don't be so formal with me, okay? I want to talk to you personally. Her voice was softer than I remembered. It's not about the acquisition. It's about other possibilities for cooperation. Isn't talking through Zhou Yin enough? My tone was icy. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. Zhou Yin doesn't know I called you. In fact, he doesn't know I've revised the acquisition terms. I frowned. What do you mean? 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The coffee shop at the Langham Hotel. She said softly, bring your list of core requirements. Let's talk as business partners. After hanging up, I fell into deep thought. What game was Sue Manning playing? Was it a new tactic for control, or... The next day, I went to the appointed place alone. The coffee shop at the Langham Hotel was quiet and elegant, with very few customers at this hour. I chose a table in the corner, ordered coffee, and then took the prepared documents out of my briefcase. Yangrong's core needs, funding, client resources, patent protection. Sorry to keep you waiting. I looked up and my breath caught. Sue Manning stood before the table, dressed in a simple white shirt and gray suit trousers, her hair tied back in a neat ponytail, wearing no jewelry. This look was strikingly similar to how she looked when we first met. Only now, there were a few fine lines around her eyes. CEO Sue. I stood up, deliberately keeping my distance. She gave a wry smile. You won't even say my name now? I didn't respond. After she sat down, the waiter brought her black tea, no sugar, no milk, just the way she always liked it. It seems she came here often. First, I apologized for Zhou Yan's attitude. She got straight to the point. He overinterpreted my intentions. I raised an eyebrow. Overinterpreted? Didn't you approve that acquisition offer? I approved that one, but she took a new document out of her bag. But this is the proposal I really wanted to put forward. I opened the document. The title read, Strategic Cooperation Framework Agreement. The terms were completely different from the ones Zhou Yin brought yesterday. Manning Group would invest capital at market value in exchange for a 30% stake, without demanding control. The patents would remain with Yangrong, and they even promised to bring in some client resources. Why? I asked warily. There's not much benefit in this for Manning. Of course, there are business benefits, she said, taking a sip of her tea. Your algorithm performs exceptionally well in the SME market, an area Manning has always struggled to penetrate. It's better to cooperate than compete. It sounded reasonable, but I knew Sue Manning too well. There are other conditions, aren't there? She put down her teacup and looked me straight in the eye. Only one. I want to formally apologize for the past. Sunlight streamed through the glass window onto her face. I was surprised to see that her usual confidence, that look of controlling everything, was gone. Instead, there was a hint of uncertainty. This unfamiliar vulnerability left me momentarily speechless. I used our marriage to deceive you, manipulated your career. Those things are unforgivable. Her voice was soft, but every word was clear. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, only for a chance to make amends. The apology came so suddenly, I didn't know how to respond. The anger, hurt, and resentment from the past few months surged, lodging in my chest. Why apologize now? I finally asked. She looked out the window. Because I've finally understood some things. These past 2 months since stepping down, I've done a lot of thinking. I studied the terms of the agreement carefully. I really couldn't find any traps. But that only made me more uneasy. Sue Manning never made deals where she lost out. I need time to think, I said finally. Of course. She nodded. But your cash flow won't hold out for long, will it? Her words stung. Even with an apology, she still held all the cards. So this is still coercion. No, she denied quickly. I just want to help. Solve everything with money. I scoffed. You haven't changed a bit. Her fingers tightened around the teacup. Then what do you want me to do? Watch you go bankrupt. If I have to go bankrupt to prove myself, then so be it. I stood up. At least it would be my own failure. Zhang Ziyang. She stood up too. Accepting help isn't weakness. Why do you have to be so? Because this isn't help. I raised my voice, drawing glances from nearby tables. It's just another form of control. 3 years ago, you blocked my promotion, and now you want to use this investment to keep control in my life. The color drained from her face instantly. Is that really what you think? What else am I supposed to think? I retorted. When have you ever respected my choices? The words struck her like a knife. I saw a flash of hurt in her eyes, quickly replaced by stubbornness. Fine. She gathered the documents. Since you'd rather go bankrupt than accept my charity, then have it your way. You won't go bankrupt. Lu Jing appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Without asking, she linked her arm through mine and flashed a toothy grin at Sue Manning. CEO Sue, hello again. Sue Manning's gaze fixed on our linked arms. Lu Jing. Her voice was ice cold. Isn't it inappropriate for you to be holding on to him so intimately? Oh, but I'm Xiang's person now, you know. Lu Jing deliberately leaned against my shoulder. Came to tell you some good news. We just got a term sheet from Sequoia Capital. Our Xiang won't go bankrupt. Sue Manning's eyelashes trembled slightly. She turned to me, the complex emotions in her eyes like the sea before a storm. So that's how it is. It seems I worried unnecessarily. By the time the wind chime rang again, her figure had disappeared into the rain. Her retreating figure was still elegant and upright, but I noticed her shoulders were trembling slightly. Are you crazy? I shook off Lu Jing's hand. When did Sequoia? I was lying to her. Lu Jing pulled out a crumpled napkin with a crudely drawn investment firm logo on it. But Uncle Lin really is contacting Zhun Fund. I pinched the bridge of my nose. How did you know I was here? She suddenly fell silent, her fingertips twisting the corner of her white coat. I was afraid this woman would eat you up again. When she looked up, those eyes, usually full of laughter, were glistening with unshed tears. I told you, I'm just interested in pissing Sue Manning off. So, wasn't that satisfying just now? I felt like Sue Manning's heart was breaking. I was speechless, rolled my eyes, and started walking out. What's wrong? Are you feeling sorry for Sue Manning? Hey, Zhang Xiang, wait for me. I wore high heels specifically for this. Back in the office, I told Zhao Ronghao about the situation. After hearing the terms of the agreement, he actually seemed swayed. Actually, the conditions aren't bad, if she's really changed her ways. Impossible, I said firmly. Sue Manning never makes a losing deal. Accept this, and Yang Rong will sooner or later become a subsidiary of Manning's. But bankruptcy? We're not there yet. Thinking about what Lu Jing had just said, I took out my phone. I'm going to try Lin Song again. Surprisingly, Lin Song's call connected quickly. After hearing about my predicament, the old man was silent for a moment, then said, "Come to my place to talk." Lin Song's home was an unassuming old villa in Shishan, but the interior was another world. Walls filled with antique books and calligraphy scrolls, various tech awards displayed on redwood furniture. The most striking thing was an enlarged old photograph on the study wall. Young versions of Lin Song and Su Ziyuan standing in front of a Yuan Song tech sign, smiling brightly. 30 years ago, Su Ziyuan and I were just like you and Zhao Ronghao. Lin Song poured me a cup of tea, two poor kids, one a tech genius, the other a business whiz. A perfect match. What happened later? I couldn't help but ask. Later, the old man's gaze grew distant. The company got bigger, went public. Ziyuan gradually changed, thinking technology was just a tool, and capital was king. Our disagreements grew larger and larger, until he opened a drawer and took out a yellowed contract. In 1998, while I was on a business trip in the U.S., he secretly changed the equity structure and kicked me out. The excuse he used was laughable, said my technical route was too radical. I looked through the unfair contract, stunned. History was astonishingly similar. Sue Manning's reason for rejecting my startup plan was also technical route too radical. You invested in me. Was it to get revenge on the Sue family? Lin Song shook his head. Initially, yes. When I saw your startup plan rejected by Manning, it was like seeing my younger self. He paused, but later, I genuinely came to admire your talent and backbone. Now Yangrong Tech is facing bankruptcy, your investment too. I don't care about the money. The old man waved his hand dismissively. The important thing is, do you want to keep fighting? Of course I do, but you have backbone without funding and technology without channels. Lin Song hit the nail on the head. I have a proposal. He opened a safe and took out a share certificate. These are the Manning Group shares I've secretly acquired over the years, amounting to 2%, combined with what a few old friends hold. It's enough to propose a motion at the board meeting. I looked at the document, shocked. You want not a hostile takeover. He smiled. Rather, a proposal from Manning and Yang Rong to establish an equal partnership. Since Su Ziyuan passed away, Manning has been wanting to transition to digital, but they lack core technology and talent. Whereas we have the technology, but lack resources and funding. I followed his line of thought. But will Su Manning agree? The way she is now. Maybe she will. Lin Song said meaningfully. That child was indoctrinated by her father from a young age with the ideas that everything must be kept in one's own hands and control equals safety. But ever since the divorce from you, coupled with your unyielding attitude, she's changed a lot, especially in the last 2 months. How do you know all this? The old man smiled. I have my ways. What's important is, if you're willing, I can arrange a formal business negotiation. Not charity, not an acquisition, but an equal strategic partnership. I pondered for a long time. This seemed similar to the proposal Su Manning made today, but it was fundamentally different. Not her condescending help, but an equal negotiation based on business interests. I need to discuss this with my team. Of course. Lin Song patted my shoulder. But time is short. It was late at night when I returned to the company. Zhao Ronghao and the core team were still working overtime. After hearing Lin Song's proposal, everyone engaged in a heated debate. It's too risky. Old Su, the marketing director, objected. Once we're tied to Manning, we'll be swallowed up sooner or later. But if we don't cooperate, we'll die immediately. The finance director gave a wry smile. At least this is a chance to catch our breath. The debate lasted until dawn. In the end, we decided to accept Lin Song's arrangement. Not out of desperation, but based on a simple judgment. If Su Manning was genuinely willing to cooperate equally, it was an opportunity for both sides. If she still wanted control, we could pull out at any time. After making the decision, I stood by the office window, watching the first light of dawn appear in the east. Regardless of the outcome, this time the choice was in my hands. Not as Su Manning's husband or rival, but as the founder of Yang Rong. This feeling of freedom was better than I had imagined. In the conference room at the Manning Group headquarters, the air conditioning was blasting cold air. I loosened my tie and glanced at the empty seats opposite. Su Manning and her team were 10 minutes late, something unimaginable in the past. Looks like CEO Su can be unpunctual too, Zhao Ronghao muttered under his breath. Lin Song sat to my left, calmly sipping his tea. The old man was unusually dressed in formal attire today. The silver-gray three-piece suit made him look like a retired university professor rather than the mysterious investor holding 2% of Manning Group shares. Suddenly, the conference room door was pushed open. Su Manning walked in briskly, followed by 2 executives and a lawyer. She wore an iron-gray suit, her hair impeccably tied back, her makeup so perfect it hid any sign of fatigue. But when I noticed the simple platinum ring on her left ring finger, my breath caught. It was the wedding ring I had bought 3 years ago with 2 months' salary. Apologies, everyone. Something came up unexpectedly. Her voice was still steady and strong, just slightly faster than usual. Lin Song put down his teacup. Board meeting didn't go smoothly. Su Manning's eyes flickered for a moment, then regained their calm. Uncle Lin, your information is as sharp as ever. She turned to me, nodded slightly. Mr. Zhang, long time no see. The formal greeting pierced my heart like a knife. Just a few months ago, she had cried, begging me not to leave, yet now she could address me so calmly as Mr. Zhang. Ms. Su, I replied, equally businesslike. After both sides were seated, Lin Song got straight to the point. I've gathered everyone today to formally propose a strategic partnership between the Manning Group and Yang Rong Tech. The detailed proposal has already been sent to all of you. I'm afraid that will have to be postponed. Su Manning's lawyer interrupted. The Manning Group is currently facing some internal adjustments. Lin Song smiled. Are you referring to the removal proposal initiated by Wang Dihai in collusion with other shareholders? The conference room fell instantly silent. I looked at Su Manning and noticed her fingers tighten momentarily on the document, her knuckles turning white. Uncle Lin, her voice was low. This is an internal matter for Manning. Not for long. Lin Song took a document from his briefcase. I hold 2% plus the 3% Zhang Ziyang is about to acquire, along with the shares of a few old friends. enough to veto Wang Dihai's proposal. Zhang Ziang. Su Manning looked up at me sharply, a flash of disbelief in her eyes. You're going to invest in the Manning Group? I looked at Lin Song, equally stunned. He had never mentioned this plan to me. Not an investment, a share swap. Lin Song explained. Yang Rong will exchange a portion of its equity for a 3% stake in Manning, while simultaneously entering into a strategic partnership. It's mutually beneficial. Yang Rong gains resources and channels. Manning gains technology and new blood. Su Manning's lawyer immediately objected. No, this doesn't comply with. Give Mr. Zhang and me 10 minutes alone. Su Manning suddenly cut her lawyer off. Her team was clearly reluctant, but at her insistence, they left the conference room. Lin Song patted my shoulder and also left with Zhao Ronghao. After the door closed, only the two of us remained in the spacious conference room. Silence stretched between us like an invisible wall. Su Manning spoke first, her voice much softer than before. But didn't know about this plan beforehand? I didn't, I admitted frankly. Lin Song only said he wanted to facilitate a partnership. She gave a wry smile. He's still so unpredictable. Who is Wang Dihai? Why does he want to remove you? I asked. A founding shareholder, one of my father's old subordinates. She rubbed her temples. He always opposed my digital reforms. Now he's seized on a supposed mistake during my 2-month leave, rallying several conservatives. I observed her expression carefully. Su Manning never showed weakness, but now she revealed a rare exhaustion. It seemed the situation was more serious than she let on. So you need this partnership. I suddenly understood, not just for the technology, but more importantly for the voting power Lin Song holds. She tacitly agreed, then looked directly into my eyes. Will you help me? That simple question carried so much weight. A month ago, she held all the cards. Now, it was my turn to decide her fate. The thrill of revenge should have excited me, but looking at the faint, dark circles under her eyes, I only felt a strange sense of calm. From a business perspective, it is indeed a win-win. I answered cautiously, but I need to confirm one thing. Do you genuinely recognize the value of Yangrong's technology, or do you just want to hold on to your CEO position? She took a deep breath. What difference does it make? We'll be tied to you either way. It does, I said solemnly. This is very important to me. Both, I suppose. Su Manning considered for a moment before saying, I do need shareholder support, but more importantly, she pulled up an analysis report from her tablet. Yang Rong's algorithm performs far better than Manning's Chain Connect in the SME market. I wanted to drive Manning's transformation for 3 years, but we've always lacked the core technology. Her words were as watertight as ever. However, the data in the analysis report she presented was objective, even frankly pointing out the shortcomings of Manning's own products. This pragmatic attitude was a far cry from the omniscient Su Manning I once knew. You've changed, I couldn't help but say. Really? She gently twisted the ring on her ring finger. Perhaps I've just learned to acknowledge my limitations. This small action made my heart skip a beat. During our 3 years of marriage, she had never worn this inexpensive ring in public. She always kept it tucked away in her jewelry box, saying it was too plain for formal occasions. You're still wearing it. I pointed at the ring. She froze as if scalded. Just habit. She quickly changed the subject. Regarding the collaboration, what are your terms? I considered for a moment. Yang Rong retains operational independence. Core technology patents are not to be transferred, only licensed. Manning provides access to some customer resources, but won't interfere with our product roadmap. I don't need a board seat, but major decisions require mutual consent. These terms were even stricter than what she had proposed a month ago. I waited for her to negotiate, but instead, she picked up a pen and started amending the document directly. Add this. Yang Rong's core team will receive Manning Group stock options. And this, the joint project will be co-managed by both parties, with no single controlling entity. She pushed the amended document back to me. Is that fair enough? I was astonished by her concession. Are you sure? This effectively means giving up control. If collaboration is built on control, how is it different from an acquisition? She murmured. This time, I want to try discussing things with you on equal footing. Her words made my chest tighten. The Sue Manning of the past equated control with security. The woman before me now was learning to let go. I didn't know what she had been through in the last 2 months, but the change was real. One more thing, I said. I want to know the full history between Lin Song and your family. She paused. Didn't he tell you? Only half, I replied. Sue Manning gazed out the window, the sunlight tracing her silhouette in gold. 30 years ago, Uncle Lin and my father co-founded Yuan Song Tech. Later, as the company grew, Father deemed Uncle Lin's technological path too radical. While Uncle Lin was abroad, Father had him removed from his position through a board decision. I know that part. What happened later? I asked. Later, Uncle Lin went to the U.S., founded his own company, and sold it to IBM a few years later, achieving financial independence. As for Yuan Song Tech, it nearly went bankrupt during the 2008 financial crisis. Father gritted his teeth and held on, eventually restructuring it into what became the Manning Group. So Lin Song invested in me. For revenge. I thought so too, initially. She looked back at me. But now, it seems he's more interested in correcting a historical error, proving that the technological path rejected back then was the right one. This explanation suddenly clarified many things. Lin Song wasn't just drawn to the parallels between my situation and his own. More importantly, Yang Rong's technological path was a direct descendant of the approach he had championed and been rejected for years ago. Your father, did he regret it later? I asked. Sue Manning's gaze dimmed for an instant. He said before he died, his biggest mistake wasn't choosing a conservative path, but treating his best partner disrespectfully. There was a knock on the conference room door, and Lin Song peeked in. Have the two CEOs come to an agreement? The people outside are getting impatient. Sue Manning and I exchanged a glance and nodded simultaneously. We agree to the plan of an equity swap plus strategic cooperation, I said. I agree as well, Sue Manning added. The specific terms will be implemented according to the revisions just made. People from both sides came in and gathered around the draft that had just been written, starting a discussion. No one objected, at least not openly. Lin Song smiled, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes smoothing out. Now that's more like it. If only your father had been this open-minded back then. Uncle Lin, Sue Manning interrupted him, about the board vote. Don't worry. Wang Dihai can't stir up any trouble. The old man winked. However, Manning's digital transformation really needs to speed up. Times have changed, little girl. This familiar address softened Sue Manning's expression. I suddenly realized that after her father's death, Lin Song might be the only one who still saw her as a little girl. The official signing was scheduled for 3 days later. Both teams began negotiating the details, and the conference room quickly became lively again. At Lin Song's insistence, Lu Jing was also asked to be brought over. Wang Dihai vehemently opposed the joint cooperation, holding forth in the conference room. You two were already husband and wife. Now you're just sacrificing the Manning Group's interests. I propose the company must be defamilialized. We can't let your family call all the shots. Otherwise, I have reason to suspect you, Sue Manning, are transferring company assets. This infuriated Sue Manning. Lu Jing gave a mischievous chuckle and hacked into the conference room's projection system. Wang Dihai was pontificating about the disadvantages of having management that's too young, and how cooperating with Yang Rong was sacrificing interests. Oops. Lu Jing pretended to make an operational error and projected Wang Dihai's secret emails with an overseas fund onto the big screen. Shareholders, please take a look. Is this called defamilializing the company or selling off the family jewels? The room erupted in an uproar. Even Wang Dihai's supporters looked at him angrily. Sue Manning turned sharply to look at me. I immediately shook my head. It really wasn't my doing this time. Lu Jing slipped over to my side amidst the chaos. Uncle told me to remind you, the 3% equity transfer is complete. She slipped me a USB drive. It contains all the dirt on Wang Dihai. Whether you use it is up to you. Looking at her sparkling eyes, I suddenly realized this seemingly carefree girl had precisely hit the critical point in the game. What you're doing is illegal, Wang Dihai said angrily. Your illegal actions are far more serious, Sue Manning stated. If you still oppose the cooperation now, I don't mind sending you to prison. Sue Manning reverted to her image as the decisive, efficient CO, only unconsciously twisting her wedding ring when no one was looking. By the time the meeting ended, it was evening. I declined the dinner invitation and headed towards the elevator alone. Behind me came the hurried click of high heels. Zhang, Sue Manning called out, catching up. Can we talk privately for a moment? She led me to the CEO's office on the top floor, spacious, luxurious, with a superb view, yet inexplicably felt like a cage. She took a small box from a drawer and pushed it towards me. I've been meaning to return this to you, she said softly. Inside the box was the man's wedding ring, as new as when I first bought it. I picked up the ring. The inside band was engraved with our wedding date and initials. You can keep it. I put the ring back in the box. After all, it was bought with real money. She smiled, fine lines crinkling at the corners of her eyes. Perhaps now isn't the right time to say this. But thank you for the choice you made today. What choice? Choosing cooperation over revenge. She looked straight into my eyes. If it had been me, I'm not sure I could have done the same. That sentence carried more weight than any apology. The Sue Manning of the past never admitted she could be wrong, let alone imagine herself in a vulnerable position. The woman she was now had at least learned to see things from another perspective. Business is business. Just commercial decisions, I said lightly. By the way, you mentioned stepping down for 2 months to think. What did you figure out? She walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, overlooking the city lights. A lot. Mainly, my father was wrong. About what? About control equating to safety and power equating to happiness. She turned, her back to the glittering nightscape. These past 2 months, I've lived more authentically than I have in the past 10 years. Authentic. The word sounded so incongruous coming from Sue Manning, yet somehow fitting. I thought of the Sue Ching who'd squeezed onto the subway with me, compared prices in the supermarket. Perhaps that was her truest self. It's getting late, I finally said. See you at the signing in 3 days. Zhang Xiang, she called after me. The ring. Are you sure you don't want it? I glanced at the small box, then at the woman's ring still adorning her ring finger. A complex emotion swelled in my chest. You keep it for now, I said, until I figured some things out. Stepping out of the Manning building, the night breeze brushed against my face. My phone vibrated. A message from Zhao Ronghao. How did it go? Are you really taking a stake in Manning? I replied. Commercially, it makes sense. We're technologically complementary and synergistic in the market. Cut the corporate speak, he texted back instantly. What did you two talk about privately? I looked up at the lights still on in the penthouse, remembering the look on Sue Manning's face when she'd said she'd lived more authentically than in the past 10 years. Maybe we'd both grown a little through this twisted relationship. Just confirmed a few things, I replied to Zhao Ronghao. Went over some details. Come on, did old flames reignite? Did you get some physical revenge on her? Piss off. Come on, I want to hear how you hammered out the details. The physical details. The signing ceremony was held in the banquet hall on the first floor of the Manning Group building. I stood at the registration desk, adjusting my tie. My reflection in the mirrored wall showed I was thinner than 3 months ago, but my eyes held more clarity. Behind me, Zhao Ronghao was taking selfies with our tech team. The young engineers, dressed in new suits, had excitement written all over their faces. Nervous, Lin Song materialized beside me. The older man was sporting a rare burgundy tie today, looking sharp and energetic. A little, I admitted. This is Yang Rong Tech's first major partnership, after all. Lin Song patted my shoulder. Remember, this is an equal business partnership today, not charity. He lowered his voice. Manning was up until 3 a.m. last night, revising the agreement. Deleted the last few clauses that could touch on control rights. I raised my eyebrows, surprised. That wasn't Sue Manning's style. She always saw control over the details as the core of any negotiation. The banquet hall doors opened, and the Manning Group team filed in. Sue Manning led the way, dressed in an ivory pantsuit, her hair pulled back in a simple bun. Her only adornment was the familiar wedding ring. She looked much more spirited than a month ago, a long-lost sparkle in her eyes. Mr. Zhang, welcome. She extended her hand professionally. You're too kind, Ms. Sue. I took her hand. It felt warm and firm, instantly reminding me of the moment we exchanged rings at our wedding 3 years ago. The signing process was simple and efficient. Under the flashbulbs, Sue Manning and I exchanged pens and signed our names on the thick contract. As we shook hands for the media photos, she used the angle to lean close to my ear. 7 tonight, top floor conference room, just the two of us. I frowned slightly, perhaps noticing my reaction. She continued, "Relax, it's just work matters that need to be discussed in person. It involves trade secrets." Her breath brushed against my ear, carrying a familiar perfume scent. I gave an almost imperceptible nod and then stepped back to a safe distance. "What were you two talking about so close just now?" Lu Jing asked me huffily. "She asked me to discuss collaboration details tonight." "It's business," I replied. "Just the two of you? No one else?" She said it involves trade secrets, requiring the company leaders to discuss it. Bullshit? I think she's just after your body. Actually, Sue Manning isn't bad. She's the beautiful boss of a large corporation and your ex-wife. If you can't control yourself, a little spark igniting the old flame wouldn't be impossible. You're jealous. I stepped forward, very close to her, looked in her eyes, and asked. She blushed and stepped back. "I'm just afraid you'll think with your dick and it'll affect your decisions." Then she turned her head away. My hand rested on her waist as I leaned towards her ear. "Don't worry, I'll remain chaste as jade." In the distance, Sue Manning watched me with a complex expression. At the reception after the ceremony, I was busy handling congratulations from various media outlets and investors. Yang Rong Technology, once a small team on the verge of bankruptcy, had transformed into an equal partner with an industry giant. This kind of comeback story was exactly the type of material business media loved. "Mr. Zhang, could you talk about the significance of this collaboration for Yang Rong Technology?" A financial reporter held a recorder up to my face. "It means our technology will serve a broader market," I replied smoothly. Manning Group's channels combined with Yang Rong Technology's innovation can provide entirely new solutions for the digital transformation of small and medium-sized enterprises. Not far away, Sue Manning was also surrounded by reporters. From snippets of conversation, I heard her praising Yang Rong's technological strength, calling the collaboration a key step in Manning Group's digital transformation. This was a stark contrast to how she used to privately disparage my startup plans. Halfway through the reception, Lin Song quietly pulled me into a corner. "See that old man in the gray suit over there?" I followed his gaze. A man in his 60s was staring grimly at Sue Manning. "Wang Dihai." "Yes, a veteran of Manning Group, the initiator of the dismissal proposal." Lin Song sipped his champagne. "He has international capital backing him, wanting to break up Manning Group and cash out." Suzy Yuan was most worried about this guy before he passed away. "So this crisis wasn't accidental?" "There are no accidents in business," the old man sneered. "But now we have enough votes to stop him. The 3% you hold is crucial." I frowned. I thought the collaboration was the focus. Shareholder struggles have nothing to do with me. "A smart attitude." Lin Song nodded approvingly. "But sometimes, choosing a partner means choosing a side." After the reception, I declined the team's invitation to celebrate and returned to the Manning building alone. The security guard already recognized me and let me go straight to the top floor. As the elevator ascended, my heart uncontrollably sped up. This was the first time since the divorce that Sue Manning and I were having a truly private meeting. The top floor conference room was empty. On the long table sat 2 simple meals and a bottle of red wine. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the lights of the entire city spread out like a river of stars. I was admiring the night view when the sound of high heels came from behind me. "Sorry, I had to take a last-minute call." Sue Manning walked in, having changed out of her formal suit. She wore a simple white blouse and a black pencil skirt, her hair let down. This look was more like the Su Qing from my memories. "It's all right." I pointed at the meal boxes. "This is—" I figured you might not have eaten anything." She opened a meal box. It was the signature set meal from a nearby Cantonese restaurant, exactly the one I used to love ordering when I worked late. "I hope you still like these." This detail warmed my heart. She still remembered my taste. We ate in silence for a while. The atmosphere was subtle but not awkward. Finally, she spoke first. "The first project after our collaboration, I want you to be fully responsible for it." I thought we'd be a joint team. It was supposed to be, She put down her chopsticks. But I thought about it. Yang Rong technology needs a chance to prove itself. Manning Group has a difficult old client in Qingdao who has consistently refused digital transformation. If you can land them, why give me this opportunity? I asked directly. She swirled her wine glass, the red wine leaving faint trails on the glass. Because of what I said 3 years ago when I rejected your startup plan. Do you remember? You said I lack market experience and my technical route was too risky. She nodded. Now I want to see for myself whether I was wrong or you've grown. This answer was so Sue Manning, packaging concession as a test, disguising trust as a challenge. But for some reason, I didn't dislike it this time. Perhaps it was because her gaze no longer held that condescending sense of control, but instead carried genuine curiosity. I accept the challenge. I raise my wine glass. But on one condition, I want complete autonomy in decision-making. Of course. She smiled happily, clinking her glass against mine. It's your project. The red wine slid down my throat, carrying a rich, fruity aroma. We discussed some collaboration details, and the atmosphere gradually relaxed. When the topic shifted to the recent situation of our respective companies, she suddenly asked, "Where are you living?" "Still at Zhao Ronghao's place. I moved out last month, rented an apartment near the company." "Living alone?" "Not with Lu Jing." The question seemed casual, but I knew what she was asking. "For now," I deliberately asked back. "What about you?" "Still living in that penthouse apartment." She looked down at her wine glass. "It's too big for one person." The loneliness implied in that sentence made the air heavy. I changed the subject. Lin Song said Wang Dihai has international capital behind him. She immediately switched back to her business mindset. Blackstone Fund. They've always wanted to swallow Manning's core logistics assets. This shareholder crisis was instigated by them. So you urgently need our cooperation, not just for the technology, but also for Lin Song's voting rights. Initially, yes, she admitted frankly, but now, I value the technology itself more. She paused for a moment. Zhang Xiang, I owe you an apology. I didn't expect the topic to suddenly turn personal. What's the apology for this time? For everything. Her fingers unconsciously rubbed her wedding ring. To deceive, to control, to not trust you. Outside the window, the city lights cast a soft edge on her silhouette. At this moment, she was neither the aloof President Su, nor the ordinary Su Qing she pretended to be, but simply an ordinary woman admitting her mistakes. "I accept your apology," I said softly. "Actually, I should apologize too. And what are you apologizing for?" "For never truly understanding you." I looked directly into her eyes. "For 3 years, I only saw the side you showed, whether it was the feigned ordinariness or the real assertiveness, but I never considered the reasons behind it." A flicker of emotion crossed her eyes. "Did Uncle Lin tell you about my father?" "Only part of it. He groomed me to be his successor, and also groomed me into a control freak." She gave a wry smile. In his eyes, emotion was weakness, trust was dangerous. "My mother died young, no one taught me what healthy love is." This candid self-analysis softened my heart. I suddenly realized that in this distorted marriage, we were both victims in a sense. I was deceived and controlled, while she was imprisoned by her own fear and paranoia. "And now?" I asked. "Have you learned?" "Just starting." She picked up the wine bottle and poured us each a glass. "These past 2 months, I've read a lot of psychology books, even found a therapist." "Ridiculous, isn't it? Sue Manning needing counseling." "Not ridiculous," I said sincerely. "It's brave." She smiled, fine lines appearing at the corners of her eyes. "Did you know? During those 2 months after I stepped down, I secretly attended one of your product launches." "What? When?" "Late last month, the one at the tech park. I wore a wig and glasses, sat in the back row." Her smile had the mischievousness of a child who'd pulled off a prank. "You presented really well, better than any product director at Manning." I remembered noticing a woman with glasses bowing her head and taking notes that day. Thought she was an industry analyst. "That was you." I wanted to see what the real you was like." Her voice lowered. "Not as my husband or my rival, just as Zhang Xiang himself." This confession made my heart race. We looked at each other in silence, something intangible flowing in the air between us. Finally, She was the first to look away, glancing at her watch. It's getting late. You have work tomorrow. We walked to the elevator together. While waiting, she suddenly asked, "Who are you planning to take for the Qingdao project?" Zhao Ronghao and two core engineers. Considering adding an industry consultant? She asked, seemingly casually. That client is very traditional. They need someone who understands their old-school thinking. Possibly. Do you have a recommendation? I understood her implication. Her group should indeed have someone following up. Yes. The elevator arrived. She stepped inside and turned to face me. I stood frozen as the elevator doors began to close. She quickly pressed the door open button. Unwilling. You go in yourself? I asked, somewhat incredulously. Was she still trying to keep control? Just as a consultant, not the boss. She looked at me. What, you don't want me to go? Manning, I have a girlfriend now, I said. That doesn't matter. It's just work. Like you said, business is business. Her eyes held a probing look. Of course, if you feel. All right, I interrupted her. If you really want to go, you're welcome to join. The moment the elevator doors closed, I saw a genuine smile lift the corners of her mouth. Back in the apartment, I stood by the window, unable to sleep for a long time. My phone vibrated. It was Zhao Ronghao, sending photos from the celebration party. The young people were laughing carefree. I replied with a smiley face, then opened my photo album and flipped to our wedding photos from 3 years ago. In the photo, Sue Manning, wore a simple white dress. Her eyes crinkled into crescents as she smiled. Back then, neither of us knew the future would be so convoluted, nor could we have imagined that after all the deception, hurt, and separation, we could still talk as calmly as we did tonight. On the nightstand lay the luggage packed for Qingdao tomorrow. On top was the client file Sue Manning had emailed me that afternoon. The depth of her analysis was impressive. This was the real her, intelligent, professional, striving for excellence, needing neither pretense nor control. Ding! Another message arrived on my phone. See you in Qingdao. Good night. I picked up my phone, hesitated for a moment, then sent a message back. Good night, Manning. Just 2 simple words, yet a warmth spread through my chest. This wasn't an ending, nor a new beginning, but some kind of new possibility. 2 more complete individuals getting to know each other again in a healthier way. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like stars. I suddenly recalled what Lin's song said when parting today. Life is long, and detours are part of the journey. Yes, the road ahead is still long, and this time, we will walk it more clear-headedly and more freely. Soon after, Lu Jing called. Relax, I said, laughing. Kept myself in line for you. Nothing happened. I hope you screw yourself to death, Lu Jing said huffily. You're not allowed to see that siren alone again. All right, whatever you say. Chapter 30, The Final Blessing. 2 years later, Yang Rong Technology had captured most of the small and medium-sized market and successfully gone public. On the night of the IPO, the entire company was brightly lit. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the reporters and flashing cameras below, holding the first-day stock report that had just arrived. The numbers were 27% higher than even our most optimistic forecasts. Lu Jing wrapped her arms around my waist from behind, resting her chin gently on my shoulder. Zhao Ronghao says they're pulling an all-nighter to celebrate. Her hair carried the faint scent of gardenia, just like the girl who served tea in the investor meeting room 3 years ago. Only now, the badge on her chest read, So Lu Jing. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a message from an unknown number. Congratulations. I always believed you could do it. It was a message from Sue Manning. I looked out the window. The lights on the top floor of the Manning Group building across the way were still on. 2 weeks later, Sue Manning asked to meet me at the old tea house. Zhang, I'm tired. Sue Manning's eyelashes trembled. She handed me a document, an equity transfer agreement. If I were willing to hand Manning over to you, would you? Her voice grew softer. You and Lu Jing. Manning, don't be like this. It was the first time I called her that. We've already gone our separate ways. Tears fell from her eyes. I'll wait for you to change your mind. She pushed the document back towards me, her voice soft but clear, no matter how long it takes. As I walked out of the tea house, Lu Jing was waiting for me across the street. She was wearing the same pale yellow dress from our first date. holding 2 cups of bubble tea. How did it go? She handed me one. It still had extra boba. I glanced back at the second floor of the tea house. Sue Manning stood by the window, her figure reduced to a silhouette against the setting sun. She raised her hand, waving it gently, not to ask me to stay, but as a farewell. That's nice. I took Li Jing's hand. Let's go get hot pot. My phone vibrated again. It was Zhao Ronghao posting the new office design drawings in the group chat. Lu Jing leaned closer to look, her hair tickling my cheek. On a distant building, the LED screen started playing the evening news. An announcement about the new partnership between Manning Group and Yangrong Tech scrolled across the screen. The crosswalk's red light started flashing. I tightened my grip on Lu Jing's hand and ran to the other side of the road before the countdown ended. Behind us, the tea house's wind chimes tinkled, like an unfinished story, or perhaps a gentle blessing.